Richardson.
Perez.
Perez. Perez.
Perez.
Perez. Hyphen.
Yeah.
Mary Richardson-Perez.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you can say Perez.
Perez. Well, I got my minor in Spanish
Did you?
and lived in Mexico.
Well, then you should have known.
I should say Perez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Perez. Mary Richardson-Perez. What is your title? Like when you're on your business card or whatever that would go underneath your name, it would say.
Mm.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, if it's the studio, then it would say founder and co-owner.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Founder and co-owner of Satya.
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 Close.
Gosh darn, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Satya. Satya.
Satya.
Yeah. Yoga instructor.
Yoga teacher.
Yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I'm a social work intern.
Social work intern. What is that?
It means that I haven't completed my degree yet. I'm in my last internship.
You're getting your LCSW?
Yes.
You're getting your LCSW.
But right now, I'm just getting my LMSW.
LMSW.
Yeah.
That's the
Masters of Social Work. And then if I want to get my LCSW, I have to do my clinical hours after that.
Which is like 1,000 or 2,000 supervised.
It's a lot. I don't know if it is.
I know a couple people that did that.
Yeah.
Social work intern. So you're in the process of being and that's the goal is LCSW?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's Jamie was, this is interesting because Jamie Fagari was the therapist that came and we spoke for like 3-4 hours. It was awesome. We talked about all kind of stuff. Narcissism was the focus.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to understand more what narcissism was.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be topical.
Mm-hmm.
But she...
yeah.
She was like,
uh-huh.
You know why?
Yeah, I know why.
uh-huh. She is a certified yoga instructor.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And an LCSW. Well, she an LCSW. Let me see what she's. I got all the notes here. Yeah, LCSW, holistic psychotherapist.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, darn it, when I want to get everybody together and do a round table about mental health and yoga, and that's a perfect. She was like, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Get all you guys. Jennifer Coates could be our resident little wildcat.
Uh-huh.
I'm just goofing. She's wild though. She's a witch.
Really?
She said she's a witch.
Oh, okay.
She's a witch.
I did not know that about her.
2-time whale. She was a humpback whale and a blue whale in her past life. We talked about all kind of stuff. Anyway, let's not talk about her. Let's talk about you. But that's why I say she'll be our resident kind of.
Man, I'm realizing I did not know her. That's really interesting.
You guys knew each other, right? Didn't you all?
Well, yeah, but
roommates.
Wait, no,
okay.
Roommates.
Maybe that was Carly.
Carly and Jennifer Coates.
Huh. She said she knew
I'm
you guys.
all kinds of things.
She said she knew you guys.
I mean, I know her from like way back when, but I never would have guessed she was a witch or any of that. So
I wouldn't have either.
Yeah.
I mean, the space she holds in stretching and breathing yoga doesn't have any witchy-like elements. It definitely has. There's no cats, no pointy hats. Anyway.
No brooms.
But it'd be cool to get that kind of broad perspective from different people kind of talking about mental health, yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Because I think even if we have a similar background, there's going to be very different perspectives maybe, or different sources of knowledge. So that could be interesting.
Speaking of, is it okay if you keep on correcting the way I say Satya until I get it right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Satya.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Say it.
Satya.
Satya.
Mm-hmm.
It's Satya.
Yeah.
Satya.
Yeah. Satya.
Satya.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a while, but I will get it.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you studied Sanskrit or?
I did. Yeah. So I studied it so I was getting a degree in fine arts and focusing on painting. And then I took I think it was called yoga philosophy or Indian philosophy. I don't remember, course, with a professor named Stephen Phillips. And so he was kind of well known because there weren't a lot of Sanskrit professors or yoga. Like that was the only yoga philosophy course at UT, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I took his course and he was hilarious and kind of eccentric. And I was like, this is an interesting guy. So I asked him if he would like mentor me in Sanskrit, and then I would give him free like yoga privates. And surprisingly, he was interested.
Yeah.
And so I met with him weekly and he would kind of tutor me. And then he encouraged me to enroll in the Sanskrit program at UT. So then I enrolled in that program and I started working on a second degree in Asian studies. And it was a crash course because it was a sweet German lady, although very strict, led the class. And it started off with 16 of us in the first semester, and you move along with each other because it's progressive.
Uh-huh.
By the fourth semester, there were 3 of us.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And one of the students actually became a really good friend of mine, still one of my closest friends. And she actually wasn't even enrolled in the course. She was just doing it for fun, right? Not for credit. And then the other person was doing it, I think, because they were going to get a degree in either linguistics or something.
Why did everybody bail?
Because it was so hard, because she was so strict. She may not think so, but me and my now friend, she and I would go home and cry.
Who's this? Who's this professor?
I can't remember. In my mind, it's Professor Harzer, but I don't know if that's
just gonna
correct.
give her a shout out.
Yeah.
You were a little hard on Mary, okay?
Yeah.
You know who you are.
It was so much homework, and like her expectations they were grand.
But you stuck it out.
I stuck it out, yeah.
You said you weren't an expert in Sanskrit.
I'm not, because I was at back then, this was before my kids, so at least 10 years ago. So back then I was doing well. I was starting to translate texts and was teaching like basic pronunciation to other yoga teachers.
Uh-huh.
But then kids happened and I started focusing my energy elsewhere, like opening up a studio.
Right.
And then I just stopped practicing, and it's like anything else, you
lose it when you
lose
stop
it.
practicing
Yeah.
all the time.
And so even back then, though, I would not say I was an expert, because I look at like Professor Phillips, who was tutoring me, and he is taking these massive texts like the Rig Veda, and he's translating that. And he would say, I'm not an expert in Sanskrit.
Well,
so
if I took 10 random people from America and you were one of them, you think you'd be the one that knew the most about Sanskrit?
Maybe 10 random people, yes, but that does not qualify
Let's
me
say
as an expert.
100 people.
No. There's got to be
How many
somebody
people
else.
do you think know Sanskrit?
I don't know. But
You're in the 1%, I would think.
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. It's one of those things. It's like, when someone says, hey, have you seen the new Tesla truck? I remember when somebody asked me that question.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And then that day I saw 5, right?
Yeah, whenever you prime yourself, and once you're primed to see a number or an object.
Yeah, so you're going to start seeing Sanskrit experts everywhere.
Oh, you think I will? Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I'm hanging out with...
Guess what? So Jim Maxwell, who you said...
He's a Sanskrit expert?
Yes.
No
more
way.
than me.
Jim is?
Yep. See? Now you already know.
I know too.
Yep.
Dang, that's more than I thought I would know.
Uh-huh. Way more than me. Yeah. I'm like beginner level compared
to him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
James Maxwell is the yoga therapist that referred me to Mary.
Mm-hmm.
But he's at the end of his career and didn't want anything to do with this stuff.
Yeah.
But he was very kind and generous with his time, and referred me some really wonderful people, yourself included. Okay, so not an expert, but you think as part of this discussion, maybe over time as we have these discussions, you could teach me some Sanskrit?
No.
You couldn't?
Maybe. What do you want to learn?
Just the easy stuff, whatever you felt comfortable teaching me. So as it relates to yoga,
Okay.
I thought it'd be a fun thing to like teach a layman how to say these words, just like it is like satya, satya.
Yeah.
Seeing someone
Yeah.
fumble over time and be like, okay, let's try those words again, like when we meet again in a
Yeah.
month or so.
So here's the thing. Like, one, I'm out of practice.
Okay, so you can't even
Been
say them.
years. I mean, I can, but the other thing is, and this is something that I talk about with yoga teachers when we are going into like just basic pronunciation. There's some things that I have heard for I started teaching in 2000, and when did I start teaching? 2005 or 2009, I can't remember. But so imagine like hearing the same words, the same names for that long,
Uh-huh.
right? Being mispronounced. And then only really studying Sanskrit for, let's say, 5 years out of that. So I still kind of like battle between, wait, I've heard this pronounced a million times this way,
Yeah.
but yet if I look at the actual letters, I'll know how to pronounce it, right? And
Uh-huh.
so I have to revisit words to say like, oh, how's this actually
We could
pronounced?
revisit them. And you
Yeah.
could also teach me because the community can change language, right? If all the yoga instructors in America say like we're going to just pronounce it this way, is it really wrong?
In my opinion, or
Yeah, both. In your opinion, it is wrong.
it's wrong.
It's wrong. Well, you can teach me the right way. You can also say, no, let's not do that. I'm just trying to find fun things we could do
Sure.
around discussing yoga
Hmm.
and just having a good conversation.
Sure. Yeah, we can try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can look up the words and show you and be like,
Uh-huh.
here's what they're spelled like. Let's see. So we could talk about Sanskrit a little bit. What do you think I'd fail at? Oh, between you,
What do you think?
Holly,
Oh.
and Carly, what do you think what makes you unique among the three? Because I've been to all three of y'all's yoga classes, and
Mhm.
I notice a difference between you, Carly, and Holly.
Well, why don't you tell me?
Mm-mm.
Oh, come
I
on.
want you to tell me. We can talk about it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't really know. That's
You
the
know.
No, I mean, okay. I haven't taken Carly's class in such a long time. And um yeah, I'm not sure like what she's up to as far as exploring, studying, going, deep into. With Holly, I've had recent conversations about it. And so I know like she's been doing astrology
Mhm.
trainings, right? And she does a whole lot of reading, poetry, philosophy. So I know she brings that into her classes,
Yep.
right? Which I don't. So that would be a difference.
Yep.
I think maybe because my the last, what is it, like 4 years, I've been studying everything related to social work. And so, trauma informed lens and what that means. I'm trying to think of like the different things that I've studied over the last 4 years. Um, what else? I guess, although I haven't really studied this in the last 4 years of my program, I've studied it for many, many years. This idea of like how more modern kind of neuroscience overlaps the more traditional or even like ancient yoga traditions.
Uh-huh.
So looking at like when we talk about in yoga, like hatha yoga, what does being in a sattvic state mean? Right? This idea of kind of like balance or harmony and how that then overlaps our understanding of the nervous system and what it's like when the nervous system is regulated.
Uh-huh.
So I think maybe kind of like bringing those things into class
Mm-hmm.
um, is, I don't know, something that is like more in line with where I'm going and what I've been studying. That might be different.
That's in alignment with my experience of you.
Okay.
Yeah. When I think of the three of you, what comes to my mind is Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, and the person in the middle. And I think Holly's the Carl Jung of the group, the mystic, the
Mm,
like bringing in kind of quasi-esoteric, she's the one that would bring in a Rumi quote or like
Mhm.
Ram Dass or like there's that and kind of a way that's more spiritual
Mhm.
and mystical,
Mhm.
astrology, all of those things. And then from Carly, I got more of a more, these are the movements, this is how you get there, really clear, and not as much of that. I mean, I think all of y'all bring a little bit of that mysticism or that kind of mindfulness, I
Mhm.
think is a good word for it, to it. But Carly seems to be on this end, and you seem to be right in the middle.
Okay.
You bring mindfulness, you bring enough spirituality, but there's also just a fun and play and like uh, a way that's in the middle, I think. And this is my very limited experience, right? I've been going to the studio now for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
um, and really have been enjoying it. So I've only experienced a very limited amount of you guys' instruction and
Mhm.
care.
I like that.
What do you think about that?
Yeah,
Does it make sense to
it
you?
makes sense. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I have no other thoughts about that.
Okay. I definitely want to talk about this trauma-informed yoga. It seems like that, I think that would be a really good thing to talk about. It's something I'm interested in.
Mhm.
Um, and the Sanskrit fun, that seems like something we could have fun with. And then Phil Fails at, what do you think? Every episode has like a topic. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be like what we're like. It's just like it's like informs the discussion.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, I hadn't thought about this.
Well, no one does. We do it
Oh,
right now.
okay.
We do it right
Oh,
before, yeah, we start. I always want
okay.
it to be in the moment, present moment experience.
But what do you so is there you said earlier, what do I fail at? So is that part of it?
Yeah,
Like
Phil Fails is the name of the show.
so I know,
Phil
but
Fails at something.
okay.
Like for Mamata Mishra, the mindfulness based stress
Mhm.
reduction teacher, Phil failed at stress, and so
Oh.
we can, because she's an expert in kind of stress, and the prescription that she has is mindfulness based stress reduction. For Jennifer Coates, we talked about intuition because she really believed yoga was a pathway to intuition with the body, and that was really helpful and beneficial for someone.
Mhm.
And then it actually led into intuition in a lot of different ways, not just like what the body needs in the moment, but life
Mhm.
energies and such.
Mhm.
Another example would be, I had a fitness instructor that Ashton, I'll interview her again on Wednesday. She's part of the whole my fitness journey thing,
Mhm.
or my whatever. I need to figure out what to call it. But she'd been constantly getting certifications and going back to school and like learning different things. And she was like, it was like ceramics and lithography, but also
Mhm.
like business and other fitness and occupational therapy and all these things. And so we came up with lifelong learning for her because it seemed to be something that underpinned her life and who she was.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah.
James Ochoa wrote a book on ADHD. He's a therapist in
Mhm.
town, also known as the ADHD Pathfinder.
Mhm.
And we did one on thriving with ADHD. And the second one we did was ADHD resourcing. So there's kind of like yoga
Mhm.
would be spot on.
Mhm.
Phil fails at yoga.
Mhm.
It'd be pretty spot on.
Mhm. Yeah.
We could do down regulating.
Mhm.
Phil fails at, I want you to help me.
Okay. Let's see. Um, well, I mean, I think it's hard because the general topic of yoga, there's so many aspects, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of having to pull like one aspect of that, I'm not sure. It almost seems like all of these people are experts and then therefore they're kind of like, I don't know, showing you or elaborating on something and that you're kind of like failing at.
Yeah, failing is synonymous with
Uh-huh.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. But that's the difficult part for me is I don't see myself as an expert in any of these things.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like hard for me to pull.
I don't think any of those folks thought they were experts.
Yeah.
Like if you asked,
Mm-hmm.
how can you be an expert at intuition?
Very true. Very true. Well,
But I
so
like it. I like what you're saying. I'm
mhm,
just like, I guess what do you think you're good at, or what do you think
mhm,
where's your attention go right now? Like
mhm.
what's exciting right now about yoga, an aspect of it?
Well, so I don't know how to summarize this in like one or two words, right?
Okay.
Okay. But what's exciting for me? Okay, well, hold on, I have to backtrack a little bit. So, there's been multiple times in my life where I thought, because I've been doing yoga for 20 something years, right?
Uh-huh.
I thought, wow, I'm a really like grounded, centered human that is able to navigate my emotions from this grounded place, that is able to respond from a regulated place, that has a spiritual connection to whatever, universe, world, whatever name you want to give it, right?
Source, yeah.
And then source, that's a good word for it. And then there's a new phase of life that happens, like having kids. And then I was like, wow, I'm the most ungrounded, unregulated human on this planet, and I need lots of work, right? And then I kind of, not that I ever got good at parenting, because I most definitely, it's a challenge every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I found my footing, okay, and utilized lots of tools that, of course, I had from yoga, but of course, also going back to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then, fast forward to more recently, I start my second internship and I'm working at a shelter for asylum seekers and immigrants. And my world expands tremendously because now I'm very aware of what's happening in Africa and what's happening in, well, all over the world,
Wow.
right? And I'm hearing lots of stories that are like hard to listen to, much less process, right? So then I find myself once again in this place of what is my yoga doing? I'm feeling sad. I found myself angry a lot of the time and unleashing on the poor like checkout person or whoever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so then it was another phase of life where I'm like, okay, I have to level up, right? And so really the yoga practice became a tool where it made me realize that there's these different phases in our life where we expand our capacity for something,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like parenting, you're expanding your capacity to hold space for a lot of emotions, a lot of different
Window of tolerance.
Right. Yeah.
What Dan Siegel called the window of tolerance, right? The green zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's your resilience.
Yes. Yeah.
I interrupted you.
No. That's perfect. And so then with the internship, it was expanding my capacity to hold more suffering like the world and being aware of everything that's happening, and hearing stories, right? And so with that expansion, there has to be expansion in another direction, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to open up to more like suffering and challenge,
Self-care, you need to have self-compassion, self-compare. Some balance is what
right.
you're speaking to.
Right. And in the beginning, I didn't have the tools for that.
The
right.
balance.
Right. It was just, I was making all this space for suffering, and I didn't have the space for anything else. And so that's what was happening. There was a tremendous level of sadness, which you can't move through your day feeling sad, right? It's hard to function when you're like really sad.
Yeah.
So I think some of us, and this is myself, we use anger to anger can be motivating,
Yeah.
right?
Anger sits right on top of fear and sadness most often as a secondary emotion.
Right. And so that I found myself, it's not like I was out there being violent or whatever,
Here comes Mary.
Right. But it's like, I don't know.
You were just spinning off a little negativity here
Yeah,
and there.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes
It's
I
a
don't feel
vibe.
it's a vibe. Yeah. And I'd walk away being like, "Oh, I don't feel good about the way I handled that."
Yeah.
You know? So I think the yoga comes in where I realized I needed to be present and sit with the sadness more so that I could, acknowledge it instead of going to that secondary emotion of anger,
Right.
right? But then I also there's this idea of like detachment in yoga, right? Where I think you said it in one of your podcasts, like you disconnect from the I, right?
Non-attachment to, yeah.
And so then with that, it's like, okay, well, I can experience the sadness, but I don't have to be this
Yeah.
sadness,
It's present.
right? And then the next step is then to make space for something that is like more joyful or more, I don't know what the word would be, but to find that balance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think then that's where the other pieces of yoga come in, right? So we have the awareness that's like, woof, I'm feeling sad,
Right.
right? And then we have presence, sitting with it. And then we have these other tools that help to regulate the nervous system so that we can make space for something else.
Heck yeah.
Right? And so those tools were like the breathing techniques, movement, of course, affirmations, meditation, mantra. So those tools then help me to be a little bit more grounded, which then I think allows us to have that space to where we're not consumed by the sadness, right?
Yeah.
If you're more grounded, more centered, or whatever word you want to give it, you can kind of witness a bit more.
Yes.
And then through that, that's what makes space, I think, for something else, like a moment of joy to kind of balance it out. Right.
That.
So that's what I'm excited about is continuously kind of expanding my capacity
On both sides.
on both sides. Yeah. So that I can do work that I'm passionate about, like working with asylum seekers
Yeah.
or working with people just in a general yoga class that are going through whatever it is they're going through, right?
And still maintaining your own emotional regulation, still maintaining your own, neutral, if not positive outlook and vibe.
Mhm.
Having your spirit be able to contain all of that, to
Mhm.
hold space for all of that, and not be, negatively impacted.
Mhm.
Because taking that positivity to this other space where there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of probably despair,
Mhm.
and meeting that with compassion, empathy, loving kindness has a tremendous value. But
Mhm.
going the other direction of like taking all that despair and sadness and then bringing it to the other side, it could go either way. And it seems like you're really wanting it to go this positive way.
Mhm.
What you shared reminds me of rain. It's I don't know if it's insight meditation or it's an acronym
Oh,
for
okay.
managing difficult emotions.
Hmm.
R stands for recognize, which is what you just said. You recognize sadness is here.
Mhm.
Fear is here. Anger is here. It's
Mhm.
present. It's part of this. And then the A stands for acceptance. Like you accept
Mhm.
the present moment as it is,
Mhm.
And then the third is like investigate. You, what's the quality of this emotion? Where is it? Am I restless? Am I breathing shallow?
Mhm.
Is there like, am I balled up in my stomach? You take your intuition from your body. Like, what is my body? How does it respond to this emotion?
Mhm.
And then the N is nurture,
Mhm.
the self-care, the
Mhm.
breathing, all the things, the yoga,
Mhm.
the movement, the things that support you in moving through that difficult emotion.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, the I for investigate, the things that you spoke to are somatic, right? The
Uh-huh.
tightness in the stomach or the shallow breath. And I think a lot of times we may not be aware of that because we're kind of like so outside of our bodies trying to take in all the
Or right up in
things.
here,
Yeah,
trying to think our way out of it.
right. And so I think that's the direct like connection to yoga as far as the asana, like the physical
Right.
aspects, right? Because it brings you back into your body. So you are intentionally kind of witnessing what is happening.
Yeah. So Phil Fails at, let's try to sum that up in a little bow.
Yeah.
Phil fails at increased capacity.
Oh.
Phil fails
Mhm.
at resilience. I'm going to spitball. You can throw some words out
Okay.
too. They don't have to be small. It could be a couple
Yeah, I
words
mean, I
here.
like resilience, but I also it's like one of those what is it called? One of those words.
Overused
Well, it's over and I'm guilty of that, like, you know, because I can't find the right words. I'm like
yeah.
resilience,
Or
resiliency,
like
right?
boundary. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean that is a good word. But keep going. Do you have another one?
You have to spit out some too. We're improvising this. We're spitballing. Give me a couple.
Let's okay. I liked the increased capacity. What else? Um, yeah, I'm not the type of person that can come up with words. I'm not
You're
I don't
not?
no, I'm so bad at this game.
Neutralizing suffering. Phil fails at neutralizing suffering. Phil fails at mindful suffering. Phil fails at suffering.
That's
As
uh,
Phil fails at what you're doing is balance.
I think that's good.
Phil fails
Balance.
at balance.
Sure.
Which also for yoga is one of the, if I think of yoga, I think of strength, balance, breath,
Mhm.
mindfulness.
Mhm.
And I'm someone who hasn't, so you're going to tell me what yoga is, but those, when I think of it as a layman,
Yeah.
as someone on the journey to understanding more about yoga, that's what comes to mind for me.
Mhm.
So balance would make sense.
Yeah.
And in this context, we're balancing out the different energies that we experience throughout our day,
Mhm.
balancing out the, I don't want to call it negative, but some of the more,
Challenging.
yeah,
Mhm.
emotions with, whether it's a gratitude practice or whatever it is, to balance that out and say, like, I'm okay. This world it contains everything,
Mhm.
and I've got to equalize.
Mhm. Yeah. I like balance.
Let's do it.
That works. Good job.
Good job. We did it. Okay, so I'm going to introduce this in a second. We're
Okay.
going to do Mary Richardson-Perez. It's funny when people speak in a normal accent and then they get to a Spanish
I
word and then they
know.
go, Perez.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's funny. Founder and co-owner of Satya, Satya, Satya,
Satya.
Satya,
Mhm.
Satya,
Yeah, you have like the basic pronunciation
Satya,
right. It's just it can be softer. Because
Satya.
if you go Satya, then it's like really emphasizing the first kind of.
And what do I
So
emphasize?
it can just be softer, like Satya,
Sat,
Satya,
Satya,
Satya.
Satya,
There you go.
Satya. Yoga
Mhm.
teacher and social work intern on her way
Mhm.
to an LCSW.
Mhm.
Is that cool for introducing you?
That works wonderfully.
Not a Sanskrit expert,
Not uh-uh.
but as far as you and I in this room, the expert in the room.
Satya.
Satya.
Mhm.
Satya. I didn't get that right. And then in the middle, I'd like to in kind of like, part of this relationship is like I really want to provide a value for you guys and the studio. So I'd like somewhere in the middle us just discuss the studio.
Sure.
Like a little like infomercial
Okay.
where we talk about where it is, what you
Mhm.
guys focus on, maybe like 5 minutes of like just we could both, or just you, however you want to do it, really showcase the studio.
Mhm.
Um, as we go on, I'd like it to be maybe a little bit more, we could do the same one at every time I interview one of you guys, have the same one, and I could even put up a graphic where it's like the location, or because I want folks to know where you are
Mhm.
and the value that you bring to the yoga community, both here in Austin, and people can go to your virtuals from anywhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I want folks to know that and to be
Mhm.
able to join those. I also want to talk to you guys about doing live streaming some of yours, maybe the ones y'all provide for free, live streaming those on Austin Public Access, as well as the social media platforms, and I can help y'all with that. And it would give opportunity for people to see and have some experience with them. I haven't mentioned it, but I've been churning. Like, as I get more value from you guys' mentorship and instruction in there, I start to think about how I can balance and find that balance between you and I. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I want y'all to get value out of this relationship because I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. And Holly said, folks knowing where y'all are and that y'all exist was what she was interested in. Anything else before we start? I'm going to put commercial.
Commercial?
In the middle. Just this is things I need to remember to hit on.
Oh, I see.
And we'll talk about your life story some at the end, if that's okay.
Sure.
Kind of who you are, how you got to where you are, and you know, that sort of thing. Have you watched any of my episodes?
Some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any of the life stories?
What?
Any of the life stories?
No.
Okay.
Do they have life stories?
Everyone.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I kind of hopped around.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I have like the whole interview, which on one of my YouTube sites, I just do kind of the whole interview with the opening and then the intro and all the stuff as like a long, sometimes 2-3 hours. And then on my Phil Phails channel, it's more like broken down to like the Phil Phails 5 questions and then the life story and then the improv. And then from those, I break it down even further to like 5 and 10 minute chunks because people get intimidated when they see an hour-long thing. So I try to give a lot of different avenues into it.
Wow. Okay. So you actually post the whole interview?
I will.
Oh, no.
What? What's wrong with that?
Like the beginning part?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, why wouldn't I?
Oh, I don't know.
I like people to kind of know how we got to where we got.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. I just never would have.
Sometimes I don't, but most times I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because we talked about a lot of cool stuff. The way we got to the Phil Fails, I think, is interesting and fun.
Yeah.
The thing you shared about going and helping folks seeking asylum, I think that's a powerful story. And its relationship as the foundation of what we're talking about today is something I think that's important. What do you think?
I think it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else before we start? You gotta go potty?
Oh, I might get some water. Is it okay if I move this?
Heck yeah, just swivel it. Swivel it on axis. Yeah.
Actually, I will.
Do you need me to make you water? Okay, it's right to left. Just walk straight in there. Awesome.
Yes, it is.
You have a contagious laugh and joy that I notice. Yeah, I enjoy this talking to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna push that a little bit to where it's
that feels very close.
Uncomfortably close to you.
Yours is not that close.
We gotta move it. Okay, I'll move it back.
Okay. Like, that's not fair. It's just. Okay, perfect.
It's just like needed to be pointed at you. Yours wasn't that close. This is not a competition, Mary. I'm a professional.
True. Expert.
I gotta put it at a level that's commiserate with your experience in broadcasting.
All right.
That's all just goofing. Goofing off. All right.
All right.
I'm down. Satya. Sibilance. Have one short with us just laughing. It'd be good. A laughing meditation. I think laughing meditations are wonderful.
Really?
I do heart coherence, heart math, where you do this thing.
I've never.
And you breathe and you put this thing and it registers your heart rate. they call it heart coherence.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice if I smile while I'm breathing, it improves my heart coherence.
Really?
I
What does that mean? It slows down the heartbeat, or?
think it makes it more even. I don't know.
Okay.
I should know more. I
Mm-hmm.
knew at one point enough to buy the darn thing.
Yeah.
And then over time, like your
Uh-huh.
Sanskrit, it like
Yeah.
kind of it went away, but I still do it.
Mm-hmm.
I still do it sometimes. Let's clap together.
Clap?
Yeah.
Like clap?
Yeah. What is that?
Okay.
How else would you do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to do it? You still got your
Yeah.
hands
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
How would we clap at the same time? You think we like
Oh.
now you initiate it. I'll try to follow you.
Okay. Pretty good.
That's real good.
Yeah.
You'll look at this camera, at least during the introduction, because I'll like put it on you a little bit. Other
Okay.
than that, we can look at each other. You can always look at these cameras though if you want. You can even talk to them directly if you
Nah.
felt like it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Phails. My name is Philip Jones, and today my guest is Mary Richardson-Perez.
Hello.
She is the founder and co-owner of Satya, Studio Satya, and we're going to work on that pronunciation during this talk. She's also a yoga teacher and a social work intern on the way to becoming an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. You already waved to everybody. Wave again to everybody. They live in all these cameras. Today, Phil fails at balance, right?
Yes.
We're going to fail at balance today.
Yes.
We're also going to have some fun talking about some Sanskrit. We're going to learn some Sanskrit words. I'm going to learn it, and you guys can learn it too, because if I can learn it, anybody can learn it. Yeah. We can learn the wrong way and the right way.
That'll be fun.
Because Mary knows she's, between the two of us, she's the expert in Sanskrit, although she would not call herself an expert in Sanskrit.
Never.
But between the two of us, she is the much more well-informed. Let's just call it that. More educated. So she can teach me things. We're also going to talk about trauma-informed yoga, I think, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
We'll see if it flows out. But definitely about balancing the, how would you call that? What would you call that? Balancing the kind of the more difficult emotions that we experience in life, balancing those out with yoga, breath work, different strategies to balance out life's life's challenges.
Yeah, or we could, use some of the words you used earlier with like this idea of expanding our capacity so that we are able to hold space for the more challenging moments, like the suffering, while also making more space for the joy of life or the things that allow us to feel more content or so that balance.
Yeah.
And then yoga becomes the tool.
The tool for it.
Yeah.
Because you're definitely, well, I was going to say definitely an expert. Would you call yourself an expert in yoga?
No.
Gosh. Would you call yourself an expert in anything?
No.
That means she's definitely an expert, y'all. Experts never call
No.
themselves experts.
No.
If you find someone that says like, I'm a meditation, and you'd be like, are you an expert in meditation? They would never say they are. That's how you know they are.
Or they're just honest.
They're honest. Well, because we're in a perpetual state of growth and development and of becoming.
And there's always somebody that knows more.
Right.
Especially if we're talking about Sanskrit.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about, balance. Let's see here. We could start out with a Phil Fails 5 questions, although I've grown into a more freeform kind of way of navigating this first part, just because I like the informal vibe of it all.
I'm not familiar with the 5 questions, though, so I'm kind of curious.
Oh, well, I asked 5 questions about the topic, which is balance for us.
Okay. They're the same questions every time.
You want to do it? No, I improv them.
Oh.
But they're pretty much, they're similar, right? It'd be like, how do you fail at balance? No, let's do it. So you can have this experience.
Yeah.
If if this works out the way
Uh-huh.
I intend, and I think the way you intend, we'll have more than just this discussion. There'll be multiple discussions with Mary
Mhm.
as she enlightens us all on yoga and whatever else is in your expertise domain. I'm really reaching for words there. My bad. We're going to learn from Mary.
Okay.
I'm going to learn, and you guys are going to learn.
We're gonna learn together.
We're going to learn
No
together.
experts here.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
experts.
Okay.
We're just hashing things out.
That's right.
But I'll ask you the questions then.
Okay.
5 of them. Gotta number them.
Can't.
How does someone fail at balance?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that's simple. You lean too much to one side. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like if we're talking about this idea of navigating the challenging or suffering that's in the world, then you get consumed by that, right? And so that kind of goes back to something I mentioned in our like pre-talk where that might look like overwhelming sadness and anger. It's kind of debilitating, right?
Yeah.
And then the other side of that, I think this has become like talked about more and more over the last however many years, but that's that idea of like toxic positivity, right?
Mhm.
Where you don't look at the suffering. And so yeah, that's you would fail by basically kind of leaning into one aspect or one side more, and it kind of is more consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Balance is kind of, I think maybe failure also would entail a lack of awareness
Mhm.
into where you are in relationship to that spectrum.
Right.
Because you might not even know
Right.
where you are. I mean, in yoga, it's easy, right?
Mhm.
If I'm not in balance, I'm feeling gravity.
Right.
But I'm like a
Yeah.
little scared.
Uh-huh.
I'm like moving feet and trying to get them under me.
Yeah. Which I bet we kind of simulate that in other ways, right? It's like because you said, I get scared. I move my feet to try to catch myself.
Right.
And I think that shows up in other ways too, right? There's fear that happens and we try to like get back to our balance, but we may not really know like what's the cause of this or
We might not
what's the
recognize it.
underlying emotion or what's the event that led to it. We may not have that awareness. But I think one other thing I want to say about that is I think it's just part of human nature in life that we are going to kind of, one day we're a little bit over here and we're feeling a little consumed by the sadness. One day we're over here and we're like just, joyful or whatever it may be. But I think it's this idea of like kind of pendulating to where we spend a little bit more time kind of in the center. And so just like when you're doing, as you mentioned, like a standing balanced posture,
Mhm.
the goal isn't to be perfectly still. The goal is to have a little bit of like wobble, but find your sense of stability. Because if you're still, you're kind of missing out a little bit on strengthening, if we're using that example,
Yeah.
right? When there's a little bit of wobble, like sometimes I will intentionally create instability in whatever posture we're doing so that you can get, if we're talking about the physicality of it, you can get those muscles to like contract and then release because they're not able to fully hold it yet.
The stabilizers.
And then they're, yeah, and then
Yeah.
they're strengthening through the process.
Yeah, we
Right.
laid down on our back on the rolled up blanket, and you had us doing like the
Oh, yeah.
bicycle feet, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like on this teeter totter.
Uh-huh.
So that's a way in which you're inviting chaos while you're attempting to maintain balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think life can be like that too, right?
Yeah,
It's like if we stay in your comfort zone, you're not really kind of like expanding if we're talking about capacity, you're not expanding your capacity to hold more, right?
right.
And so in a similar way, it's like you want a little bit of challenge or resistance, just like within the posture that we were talking about.
Yeah. I wonder if where in yoga we have gravity
Mm-hmm.
being an indicator and like the muscles kind of doing that thing. I wonder in matters of the heart and of emotion if the nervous system is telling us things with regard to where we are in balance.
I think so, yes, but maybe sometimes we're not exactly in tune or aware, right? Or we
Yeah.
kind of have fallen into a pattern and our nervous system. I mean, I could go off on that, but yeah, that's the short answer.
Yeah. Well, it's
I know you have 4 more
it's
questions.
probably hard to. Okay, I'll move on in a second, but I got that. It's probably hard to hear that intuition and that nervous system in a world where we bombard and we
Right.
distract and we with food and with alcohol or drugs or with video games or
Mhm.
with scrolling, or it seems like we're
Yeah.
constantly saying, I'm not gonna sit with
Mhm.
my nervous system and say, what's up in there, guy?
Right. I think there's that, and then the thing that I was kind of like about to get into is I think we also have things that have been modeled to, in various ways that we pick up on. So for instance, like in my family, it was kind of modeled that you just go, like go, 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 go,
Yeah.
right? And there's not a lot of time to sit and be present with things. And the I call it like over functioning, right? You over function because that's how you process, or not even process, but like that's how you manage things.
Survive.
Right. Yeah. And then that becomes like addictive to the nervous system, right? To
You've
go, go,
trained
go,
it
go,
what to
go.
expect. Yeah.
Right. And there's even a little bit of that, like kind of like adrenaline or stress response when you have a million things you got to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you actually slow down and start pay attention to the nervous system, it's interesting because when I first started doing that and I would slow down, my nervous system was like, oh my God, what am I forgetting? What do I need to,
Yeah.
what do I need to do?
Because you
Right.
needed to be in that state of stress in order to feel normal
Right.
or at a base level.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
almost training yourself to idle high.
Right. Exactly.
And so when you try to down idle, you're like, wait a second, this isn't the way the engine runs.
Right. And I think there's people that do the opposite, right? They're like
regulate.
low.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which
Goodness.
it shows up in yoga. It's really interesting because what I first was drawn to a practice that was like that, very intense,
Yeah.
and just move to the next posture. And probably what I needed was like restorative, right? Or yin.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. I see students that may primarily go to restorative or yin, and they actually might need something that's kind of what we would consider like up regulating,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Question 2.
Yes.
What is yoga?
Oh gosh. Um is this like a 5-day long podcast?
Give me the elevator pitch. Yeah. Well, no, it will be. I think we'll probably learn what yoga is over the span of our relationship with the audience. And this will be the first kind of like volley of what yoga is in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Can you nutshell it?
Man, I don't know, because this is something that even when I'm like trying to condense it, I end up talking about it for a really long time. Like I think about teacher training when we have a short session on what is yoga, it's about an hour long.
Yeah.
So I think, it has meant different things at different points in time. It's like anything that if there's something that has been around for hundreds, thousands of years, it kind of changes based on the culture, based on, what's happening. So it's said that, there's this understanding like yoga is union or connection. And even that alone, if you look at it over time from different texts, it means different things, right? So today for me, and that's the other thing, like it can be very personal, right? So today for me, I think yoga is it is a lot of different techniques and tools that help me feel more connected to my highest self. And I think that can be defined in many different ways. For someone, highest self is directly connected to God, or consciousness, right? And then for others, it's like the best version of them, right? In any given moment. There is a spirituality aspect to it for me. But would I say like my highest self is soul or spirit? I don't really know. I don't have the answer to any of those, and I'm fine with not having the answer. So it's just connection to highest self for
Yeah.
me. And yoga is it's like the tools that can help me kind of feel more connected. It's the practice that keeps me more honest,
Hmm.
right? About where I am in the world and who I am. And um yeah, so I guess that's as concise as I can get.
That's a wonderful answer. Maybe I'll ask you that every time.
Might change.
Yeah, I hope it does. I
Uh-huh.
think I'll ask everybody that
Mhm.
because it's like, what does love mean?
Right. Yeah.
It is,
Mhm.
it's a huge thing, yoga,
Mhm.
and it can mean something different to everybody.
Mhm.
And each one of those definitions valid as they bring that aspect of yoga to the world.
Mhm.
I like it. I thought you'd be like, yoga is these postures, you do this downward dog, you
No.
do this other thing, you
To me
breathe.
that is not yoga.
That's not yoga.
No.
You breathe in relationship to movement.
That I would say that is the physical practice under this massive umbrella of
That's what
yoga.
gets you to yoga.
It's one technique,
One technique.
right? That can be utilized.
Does
Mhm.
does yoga encompass mindfulness and meditation?
I mean, so historically, the techniques, whether it's breathing, like pranayama, whether it's the asana, the physical postures, and then a wide variety of other techniques, were used to then kind of prepare for some form of meditation. Right. And so today we often use this term mindfulness, I think, because there's a lot of like research behind it. It's more well known, but there's lots of different forms of meditation. Right. And so
Hmm.
mindfulness could be considered like a specific type of meditation practice, but then it's also that term now I feel like is kind of like a way of living as well, like mindful eating, mindful walking, mindfulness in your day-to-day interactions, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it could also be um a style thing too now.
Mhm. Right.
You get your
Yeah.
mindfulness purse or whatever.
Mhm.
I like that. Um Number 3, how do you succeed at balance? Or a better question might be, what kind of rituals or behaviors or routines could someone invite into their life to find balance or
Mhm.
strengthen balance?
Mhm. Hmm. If we're talking specifically about this idea of navigating the challenges as well as the joys of life,
Mhm.
right? And being able to hold kind of equally without being overwhelmed or consumed or whatever it may be. I think it's an individual thing that we kind of have to figure out, and the first step is being aware. It's kind of like you were using the acronym RAIN,
Mhm.
right? And I think that that is kind of a needed process, right? So, for example, when I'm feeling anxious, if I'm able to be very aware, I know the signs. My chest will feel a little tight.
Uh-huh.
My breath might feel short or just kind of constricted. I feel this is hard to describe, but it feel like there's energy in my arms and legs that needs to be moved,
Uh-huh.
right? So these are things that I can kind of pick up on, right? And so then what I would need to do is find some way to kind of like move that energy. So for me, sometimes it's this. It's like shaking out my arms, shaking out my legs. And then for the breath, I'll lay on a pillow, like basically a heart opener to feel more expansiveness and stretch and take really big breaths to try to stretch out the rib cage. And then it moves it somatically so that then when I start to take my awareness back, it's like, okay, it's kind of dissolved a little, that the somatic experience of anxiety, right? And then I might be able to be present with what is underneath that, whether it's a feeling about something or something that happened in my day, right? And so I can kind of sit with that without being, I don't know, consumed by the other aspects of the
Hmm.
experience. So wait, what was the original question? How do you fail?
Well, yeah, it was really what that was the first question was how you fail. This one is really what kind of rituals, behaviors, routines can you invite in your life to nurture, strengthen,
Hmm.
balance?
Okay. Yeah. So then I
The
think,
first one was awareness, is what I heard.
right.
Awareness of like, what are the precursors or what is the signals that my body gives me to know that I'm in need of balancing?
Right. Yeah, and then after the awareness is having it's almost like a toolbox, right, that you can kind of pull from, having the tools you need
Yeah,
to
shaking your
right.
body.
Yeah. And that may look different from person to person. Like some people love running. And I think it's a similar thing for me is the shaking. They're moving their bodies in a way that kind of releases that energy.
You got to
Right.
find your own unique toolkit, but
Right.
the
But the awareness has to happen
the
first.
awareness, so strengthening awareness.
Mhm. Yes.
That's like
Yeah.
knowing what's going on in your body when you're out of balance.
Mhm.
So then how do you strengthen awareness?
Practice, you
Practice.
know? So taking time to be able to kind of drop in and notice what's showing up. And it's so, it's similar to like the practice of yoga where you can do the same posture every single day and it's going to feel differently based on what you ate in the morning, your car ride, if you're going to a public class, your car ride over, the stresses that are happening, like it's going to impact like how you experience that posture, right? Everything.
Yeah.
And so in a similar way, if we're trying to strengthen our awareness of what's happening internally, we need to do it consistently so we can start to recognize like, oh, I can feel the anxiousness here today. And then there's also maybe more information as to why, right? So I think the practicing again and again and again allows us to have a fine-tuned awareness,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think of a body scan.
Mhm.
Like as you were talking, it was almost an invitation for me to say, well, how am I feeling right now with Mary
Right.
sitting in this chair? Where in my body do I feel tense or where in my body
Mhm.
do I feel relaxed? How am I breathing? And I like actually thoughtfully breathe. I was like, okay, let me take a
Mhm.
couple of mindful breaths, which is just focused on that breath. It seems like those are some tools
Mhm.
that are, I don't know, the words that come up are like Peter Levine or Basil Vanderkopf, this like kind of body keeps the score, like
Right.
go to that body and say, what's happening in here?
Mhm.
Because your mind is great for a lot of things, but it's probably not going to give you the answer here.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think what happens over time is then it's easier to drop into that kind of awareness,
Yeah.
And then and then what happens after that is then it's easier to bring in whatever it is you need to feel a little bit more like settled or grounded or whatever it
The
is, right?
prescription,
Right,
which is
exactly.
unique to the person, the context of the human.
Yes. Mhm.
It could be yoga, it could
Mhm.
be running, it could
Mhm.
be, but we know things that we think it's going to be good. Like our society gives us a lot of things that we run to soothe the nervous system that I don't think end up being great for us.
Like what?
Drinking alcohol
Oh. Okay, yeah. Wait. Where
or,
did you say that
or
the
eating,
society says?
well, just
Mm.
they're prevalent.
Uh-huh, yes,
And they
yeah.
seem to
Okay.
be, yeah, I might not have said that correctly, but they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
prevalent. There seems to be cultural acceptance of them,
Mhm. Yes, yeah.
even maybe celebration of them.
Mhm.
You know, the stressed out mom who's got the shirt on that says like wine for the wind day. And it's like, and
Right.
you're not acknowledging, hey, you're probably really stressed out.
Right.
And your coping strategy right now is something that's going to impact your sleep in a
Mhm.
negative way because alcohol is a sedative. It's not
Right.
actually help you sleep, and it gives you less healthy sleep. And that's just going to be a downward spiral for your emotions the next
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
But we don't really talk about a lot of those things. And so
Mhm.
we've normalized certain coping strategies that I think aren't in our best interest as a human.
Mhm.
Alcohol being one of them, food,
Mhm.
oftentimes sugar and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and definitely social media and the doom scroll.
Mhm.
I've found myself on there too long.
Right.
So there's some like I need to get a word bank of
Mhm.
positive coping strategies
Mhm.
and some kind of resilience or resistance to the ones that aren't, but I
Mhm.
think are.
Mhm.
I mean, how many times has a donut made me feel better? You know?
Uh-huh.
Or just a,
Uh,
uh, a grilled cheese sandwich or like a sugary treat.
right. Right. Mhm. And I think there's also some things that we kind of know that are helpful, right? Through research or even just through practice and for some reason those things are just not like wildly practiced or accepted, you know.
Yeah, maybe they're
Mhm.
getting more. I
I hope.
want to step into a world where they're becoming more accepted,
Right. Mhm.
where there's just as many breathe t-shirts as they are wine
Uh-huh.
t-shirts.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not anti-wine anybody. Like,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I guess the intention,
Right.
like what brings you to it.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, that was some rituals, which were awareness, strengthening awareness, somatic, like what's going on in your body,
Mhm.
investigating, and then the other one was come up with some strategies to neutralize or to bring yourself into balance. And it seems like
Mhm.
most of them are movement.
Movement, I think, I think sometimes when like we're upregulated, like
Uh-huh.
our system, like what I described, like, feeling that weird kind of like energy in my arms and legs, feeling the constriction in my chest. I think movement's great for things like that. It kind of like moves that type of energy. But what you just did earlier, like the deep breath,
Uh-huh.
right? I think breathing, of course, and that breathing has been researched quite a bit. Meditation, and there's different forms of meditation,
Yep.
right? And so and even that can be prescriptive, right? Because for some people, the more like mindfulness type meditation practices where they're kind of witnessing the thoughts that are surfacing, or or there's like, breath based practices may not be as effective as, like, say, like the metta meditation where someone's focusing on
Loving kindness.
loving kindness, right? Or there's imagery of like going to your safe place, which I find that one really helpful when the nervous system is
Yeah.
dysregulated.
Visualization. Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I think all of those are kind of rituals and tools, but they can be chosen based on what feels more beneficial.
Yeah.
And even like what is easier in the beginning, right? Because um, I remember when doing teacher training, like the teachers that were soon to be teachers would talk about how the breathing techniques would actually make them anxious, because that was the first time they were controlling their breath, and so holding the breath out would create a little bit of anxiety, and then so that's like counterproductive,
Right.
right? And so in the beginning things may be effective, that later on shift or change, and so for them it's like, well, don't hold the breath, just focus on taking a longer inhale and exhale, right? And then maybe later on you add some like pauses. And so that goes back to awareness. Because you got to know, as
Yeah.
as in different phases of life and different, things need to shift and
Is
change.
this still working for me?
Right.
Is this when you try something, there's got to be that like follow up of a retrospective of did that work for me?
Right.
How did that
Mhm.
impact my nervous system? How did that impact my current state?
Mhm.
And then so it starts with that awareness. You got to have that strong awareness to then
Mhm.
check back in to know whether it goes into that healthy routine category.
Mhm.
Yep. I
Yeah.
like it. Fourth
Mm.
question is let's see. Yoga balance. Yoga balance. What do you think a good question is? What question would you ask yourself right now? I'm thinking one too, but if you come up with it first.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Why not?
Yeah.
You're like, no.
No.
Well, okay, well, good question would be, man, what kind of things happen when you're out of balance?
Oh, okay. Let's see.
You're like popping off at the grocery store, all right? This like grocery register person just
Uh,
trying to sell you some baguette. And,
Wait, what?
a baguette,
Oh.
some bread, some milk, whatever you're buying. I don't know
Oh,
what you
yeah.
buy.
Uh-huh.
Staples.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're getting
A little sass.
little sassafras.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How's that happen?
Hmm. Yeah. So I think so we were talking in our pre-talk about how just to give you like a personal example, when I started working at the shelter and I started to you know expand my awareness of the suffering that was happening in the world and hearing stories,
Mhm.
right? I would feel really sad, like overwhelmingly sad, right? And I noticed it kind of impacting like watching my kids and not feeling the same level of joy. And there's also some like secondary trauma that's happening because as I'm watching them play, sometimes I would, think about like what's happening to the kids.
In other places in the world.
Right. And I
Yeah.
would even see that happening kind of in front of me sometimes, right? And so that would diminish my ability to feel, joyful or happy in those moments, like even when the kids are laughing, right? And then going back to what I said earlier, well, then I'm trying to move through my day and get through the world and do all the things. And I remember going to my son's OT appointment and I couldn't pay online for some reason. And you have to wait outside the office. They don't let you in. They'll come get the kid and take them in. So I called ahead of time to say, hey, can I come inside to pay you? I'm having trouble online. I only have Apple Pay. I don't have my card right now. And they're like, sure. So I rearrange plans. I get there early so I can take the 10 minutes to go inside. And then the lady's like, oh, we don't have Apple Pay. And in that moment, I got so angry. It's like, I rearranged my day. I'm here 10 minutes early.
You ain't Karen. You turned into a Karen.
It was like, I was like, I called earlier. I asked, and the person's like, well, you didn't say Apple Pay. You said, can I pay in person? I was like, fine. And I walked out. Right.
You
And then,
find them?
yes, I did. And then I got into the parking lot and I was like, wow, that was not about them.
You just did that, Mary.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so then I sat in my car and I took a few moments to feel, it's like, I'm feeling really angry right now. And it's not about them. Like, what is it about? And I, of course, quickly realized it's like, well, I'm angry at the world,
Angry at the world.
Yeah. And I'm not in balance. Like I'm holding on to a lot of the sadness and the suffering. And I haven't allowed myself to feel like the joy of my kids laughing, right? And so I was angry and
And sad.
sad, really sad. Yeah, truly sad. And the anger was
Just a
just
crust.
right.
A
Mhm.
protective emotion on top of a deep sadness.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I think that when we're not in balance, that's what it looks like. And then going back to this idea of like yoga and connection, that's not my highest self. That's not
Yeah.
my best version of me, right? And so I think then kind of going back to the tools that help me to feel in like more familiar, like modern terms, like to help me feel more regulated,
Yeah.
right? Or in other terms, it's like to feel more centered. Because if I was centered and kind of feeling more grounded when I had walked into that, I'd been like, oh, okay, no big deal.
Yeah. Acceptance. Quick
Uh,
to acceptance.
yeah.
It's not like you're gonna anger your way into them taking Apple Pay.
Right.
Well, I did all these things. Okay, well, we'll take Apple Pay now.
Yeah.
That was psych.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of the meditation you discussed earlier, where you sit and a thought will come up and you'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of go into it and then notice you're in this thought and then kind of extract yourself and go back to
Mm-hmm.
the deep void of meditation before the next cloud comes in and you go
Right.
straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that in relationship to the trials and tribulations of the world, especially now.
Yeah.
I can wake up 5 minutes into a rant.
What do you mean?
Like, I will have talked about how capitalism is ruining every aspect of the human experience,
Uh-huh.
from the medical industry
Uh-huh.
to therapy to education to and to definitely food supply, like how we're managing and providing food for people. And
Mhm.
I will have ranted and just be on some autopilot
Uh-huh.
hate rant
Mhm.
about the world and society and all that, and kind of wake up in it and be like, whoa,
Mhm.
I'm angry. I'm
Yes. Oh,
sad.
I see what you mean now. Yes.
I'm angry. I'm sad at what feels like a disconnection
Mhm.
between, I don't know, healthy living and life and people and all that.
Mhm.
And why can't I get connected and all that? And it comes across as this, I'm
Mhm.
ranting.
Mhm.
I imagine a lot of people are doing that now.
Yes. Yes.
Just they wake up and it's like, I've been
Mhm.
ranting for 4 months now.
Right.
What
Mhm.
happened to my humanity and a
Mhm.
world where there is all of those things? I just need to balance life out,
Mhm.
which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Life is all of those things, and it's all of the other things. It is community, it is connection, it is empathy, it is compassion, it is,
Mhm.
helping someone without any expectation. It is um deep breath.
Mhm.
Um so I don't know. I don't know where I was going there.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that, we're all here for different reasons, and we're all here to do whatever it is that, we feel passionate about. And I think that we can't do that if we are, consumed by the sadness or consumed by
Right.
anger,
Right.
And so I think especially right now when we're talking about, the rant, right? It's like, well, if we do want to do something about any of these things, then we better well be like pretty sourced and grounded because it's a long process, right?
Right.
And so,
So you could channel that into advocacy. You
right.
could channel that into some healthy places,
Mhm.
but you're probably going to need to balance yourself because it's a long journey
Right.
in
Mhm.
other areas.
Or whatever it is. Like maybe it's not advocacy work, maybe it's parenting.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah. Maybe
you
it's
know?
raising. Yeah. Well, that definitely will impact the future.
Right.
I believe
Mhm.
the children are our future.
Mhm.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense
Uh-huh.
of pride.
Of pride. To make it easier?
Easier.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm starting to get fuzzy with it
Right there,
at
yeah.
that point.
Uh-huh.
What do you think your purpose is? What do you think you're here to do?
Ah,
Do you have a
I don't know.
do
I
you probably
mean,
get glimpses of it every now and again?
yeah, yeah, I do. Um, to raise more emotionally mature and aware men, because I have
Uh-huh.
2 boys.
There it is.
Yep.
You can raise a
Um,
third one if you want.
uh-huh. No, thanks.
This one.
The adult men, I'm done raising.
Oh my God. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Oh,
Um,
we still need
yeah. I think also, I don't know. Yeah, I know what it is, but I don't know how to put it into words, right? But I think that, hmm, I feel like I've had many lifetimes in my one life, right? And
Oh, in this
in
life.
this life, like
Yeah.
9 lives, right? In
Okay.
this
In this
life.
life.
And I feel like I have been been lucky to have tools to I think I said like up level,
Uh-huh.
earlier.
Yeah.
Um
Continue to evolve and to, hold the more that life has given you. Right.
like for example, I'm surprised that I lived past 20 whatever. Like what is that goal that like number 27,
Yeah.
right?
When all the rock
Um
stars die.
right, right, not that I was a rock star,
Jimi
but I
Hendrix,
tried to
Janis
live like
Joplin.
one.
Yeah.
you
Kurt
know?
Cobain. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like, wow, I actually made it past 27. Also, I'm a pretty I don't know, I'm a functioning adult. I have children and they're doing okay, and I
Yeah.
have a house. Not that that means anything, but I just never expected any of that
Yeah.
for myself, right? Especially like my childhood was pretty rough for a while, right?
Skip to that life
Um,
story and hear this wild, no, just kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like this is all unexpected. You've been able
Yeah.
to move through, survive, and then come into a thrive stage of life.
Maybe,
Maybe.
hopefully, yeah. But anyways, I think that like part of my purpose
Maybe.
is like I don't know, sharing just the joys and being supportive of people going through the challenging aspects in a way where hopefully on the other side we come out a little better, maybe thriving, I don't know.
Yeah.
But whether that's through like teaching yoga and helping people with like specific tools,
Uh-huh.
or like working at the shelter, I think I have a good ability to kind of hold space for people no matter what they've experienced. And maybe that goes back to the fact that like, growing up I experienced a lot, and so I can kind of hold space for those that are also experiencing some trauma, right?
Yeah.
So the purpose is somewhere in there,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I like it. You
Yeah.
guys heard all that. Y'all synthesize what Mary said and share her purpose in the comments.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
ask them. They'll do it.
Yeah.
You guys, look at them. They're in there.
And there.
You can synthesize.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there.
Mm-hmm.
A little puzzle. Question 5. Man, I really like laughing with you. I like this. This is fun being with you. Is there a religion or is there a religion that underpins your practice?
A religion.
I think yoga was developed in the Hindu religion. No?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then
Well,
it also there's like Buddhism has
Right.
really taken it on, and now it's almost not, it's like secular with John Kabat-Zinn, or no, he does the meditation, but it seems like it's real secular in America.
Right.
But I guess I just wonder if there's and you can pass on any of these questions. You don't have to
Yeah.
answer any of them, but I'm just curious.
Not for me.
Okay.
No, at one point there was, like I was very much into studying the Bhagavad Gita,
That's Hindu?
so Hindu is kind of that's a tricky term. For
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know. It's tricky.
So and so we'd have to kind of get into like a history lesson to explore that, which I don't want to today.
We're not going to do that today.
Yeah.
Look out for part 2 of this in the
No.
next session, where we learn Hinduism.
Nope.
Hard pass.
Yeah. So,
But you were
so
studying
yeah,
about.
so at one point, yes,
Yeah.
right. But now I think I wouldn't consider myself religious. I would consider myself spiritual.
Right.
Right. And so, my kids ask me this all the time because they say, which God is the right God is the question I get. Right.
That's a good 5th question. Dang.
Right. And so like, if they were to ask my mom would say the Christian God. Right. Yeah. That's the God. And so they always say, well, Mom, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer. I think that all I can do is drop into what feels right in this moment, or intuitively. Yeah. I don't say all those words to my like 7-year-old. I basically say, I think they're all right. I think,
Yeah.
and in fact, like if we look at the different texts, there's some similarity in what Buddha says and what Jesus says.
Yeah.
A lot of similarity.
Right.
Right. And so I think, like all of these people that have all of these things to say, they're coming from the same source, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe when I die, I'll know. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll be bumped into the next lifetime and I won't know then either.
You believe in reincarnation?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
A lot of the time.
A
Yeah.
lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's like an animal or another human, or it could be anything? Like,
I
does it look a certain way for you?
no. Yeah, honestly, it's like sometimes I have like made eye contact with my pet and I'm like, "Oh."
You're my grandmother, my great grandmother.
I'm like, "You've been here before."
Oh man.
You know?
Yeah.
And other times I'm like, "I don't know. Does it make sense that you could come back as an animal or that you were an animal before? I don't know. Who am I to know these things? I don't know." So, yeah, I just think that there is some source. I don't know what it is. I know when I feel more connected to it,
Yeah.
and I know when I don't,
Yes.
right?
And you probably feel better when you feel connected to it, and a little
Right.
bit less when you're not.
Right. And then I also know that, what all of these people, children of whoever, the source,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
like Buddha and Jesus, like
Yeah.
when they say something that really feels like truth, and it's like, well, how can they be saying the same thing and it feels so true, right? But yet only one has the right answer or the right God. That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, spiritual but not religious, and religion to me just doesn't feel right
Right.
because it's almost like negating some aspect of the truth.
Yeah. I like it. And have you I hate to use the word synthesize again. I just used it recently, but have
Mhm.
you synthesized the positive from a bunch of your studies to bring about your own
Yes.
version of spirituality that
Mhm.
takes from all of these and says, like, I'm just going to take the good and leave the bad and develop my own kind of,
Mhm.
and maybe it's not even codified. It's just swirling around in there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so, yeah. I don't know if I have a longer answer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 5 questions.
Oh, okay. And they're different every time.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be. Some of them are like, how do you fail and how do you succeed are there
Mhm.
most times,
Mhm.
every time. And then the other ones, I like knowing rituals for whatever. If people have like a morning routine that gets them to a state of intuition or
Ooh,
whatever the
that's a good
fail is,
one.
like, how do you get to that fail? How did you get there? Like, I like, they're similar.
Mhm.
I'm going to move this down a little bit, but we're done with that section. And in this section, I normally do. I notice you're looking over at me, so your face is this way more. I'm not going to push you closer. I promise you, I won't. Is that closer?
No, that's okay.
Just because you're looking at me, which is great, but I just want the mic to be there. I want people to hear you
Mhm.
clearly.
Mm.
That laugh, I want to catch that in all its fidelity, because it'll be uplifting to all these people.
That's funny. I remember somebody once told me my laugh is very loud, and so that's just kinda what stuck.
What does it even mean? It's like a volume thing. What do they got, a dB meter over there? Like, oh, I think it hit
Yeah.
4.5 on the dB meter, Mary. That's like a.
Right.
I think it's kind of under like a low key mean too.
Right. I know. I was like, "I'm
Like,
not sure how to
were they
take
trying to
that."
meditate at the time and you're just
No,
laughing?
I have no idea.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take that one in. I
Yeah.
would take other ones.
Okay.
I've given you a handful of them now.
Yes.
Take those in.
Okay.
Forget the loud one.
Mhm.
That's garbage.
Mhm.
Feedback. Yeah.
So
Okay.
what is part 2?
Well, normally during this section we play
Okay.
improv games, but what we're gonna do is we're
Oh
gonna.
my god, I should have researched this more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Improv? Well, also you've been asking me for words, and if I knew that was a thing, I probably would have thought of some words ahead of time.
You would have thought of words ahead. You can't do that. This is a present moment experience.
Oh, okay. Okay.
People have asked me to like
Improv.
work together to like talk about what we're going to talk about. I'm like, nah, I don't really do that.
Okay.
It's like be here now.
All right.
This is a
Yeah.
mindful practice.
Okay. I'm ready.
If the word doesn't come, then we don't get that word from you, Mary.
Okay.
But we're not going to play improv games because we're going to improv sharing some information about studio. Oh, man. And now I get low key anxiety every time I say this word. but it's Studio Satya.
Yeah,
I
great.
did it?
Yep.
Studio Satya.
Satya.
It is a
Mhm.
yoga studio here in Austin, Texas,
Mhm.
that Mary is a co-owner of and a
Yes.
yoga teacher there.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And we're going to do a little not commercial, but like we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
I want people to know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cuz I'm working with Mary and Holly and
Mhm.
Carly. I hope they're not in any particular order.
No.
Carly, Mary, Holly. I feel like I got to say them in all the orders, but I'm working with them on my journey of better understanding yoga
Mhm.
and having a better practice with yoga in my own kind of pathway to my optimal self.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to be talking to them, all of them probably in that seat. And today, Mary's in that seat. Let's talk about Studio Satya.
Okay.
What does Satya mean?
Truth.
Satya means truth.
Truthfulness. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that name came about well, one, there was a little bit of drama in the yoga world and in Austin when a really well-known studio closed, Yoga. There were multiple locations, and all three of us taught there at different locations, and I taught there for many years, and it didn't end well, and so there was yeah, some financial stuff I think that was going on with the owner. I'm not going to get into all the drama, but it did not end well, and yeah, and lots of people were kind of impacted. Teachers, of course, students that have been going for a very long time, and there was some misinformation, some lies,
Fake
and
news.
well, no, it was actually from the owner himself,
Oh, goodness.
as he was like trying to keep it going. Although I don't know if he was actually trying to keep it going, but so I think there was some embezzlement there. And so after that, everybody was like, "What? I can't believe this place that supported so many people on their yoga journey and healing and whatever yoga meant to them, like for so many years,
Yeah.
ended in that way, right? It was sad. And so when I was thinking as it was coming to an end, I kind of knew that I wanted to open up a studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what do I want the studio to be about? And the first thing that came to my mind was truth, like it really being what yoga is meant to be, right? Which was, not how the previous kind of studio ended. And so that word came to my mind because of, what had recently happened, but then also because I wanted a space where all of the like traditions of yoga were still present. And so that means a practice that is really emphasizing like meditation and where there's actual learning in regards to like the history of yoga or the texts, where there's chanting and mantra, which is kind of hard to find, right? So that's all part of the name.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it opened in 2019 and was open for 4 months, and then the pandemic hit.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Studio Satya is located in North Austin
Yeah.
on Anderson Lane.
Yes.
What's the address?
1308 Anderson Lane.
1308 Anderson Lane. And you can go there physically to take classes.
Yep.
But you can also visit virtually. You can
Right.
do online classes at Studio Satya. You can do on demand.
Yes.
Is there on demand classes as well?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't
That's
have to
all
be
thanks to the pandemic.
Yeah, you don't have to
Thanks
be
pandemic, yeah.
in Austin
Yeah. You can
to
be anywhere.
participate.
Mhm.
And the things that Studio Satya every time I'm gonna get
You're
there.
doing
I'm gonna
it,
get
so
there.
just let it
Doing
go. You're doing it. Yeah.
The things y'all focus on are yoga, meditation. It sounded like some chanting and mantra.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What else? Like what makes you guys unique? You just kind of said a little bit. Community.
Yeah. So that was another aspect of this idea of like truthfulness, is that we can find truth and and like our connection to highest self through community, right? When you're feeling supported and heard and all the things. And so community is a big piece of the studio's like mission and what we focus on. So there's like book clubs and potlucks. We used to do a regular like yoga for good class where we would highlight an organization that's doing good in the community, and all the funds would go to that, and that was free. So yeah, things that focus on building community and then really just kind of pulling in all the different like techniques and tools of yoga,
Heck
breathing,
yeah.
chanting, moving. Yeah.
Sangha.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's the word?
Mm-hmm.
Part of this sharing of Studio Satya is we're going to have fun with Sanskrit words now.
Uh-oh. Okay.
We're going to try to have fun with Sanskrit words.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are like me. If you've been to yoga and all of a sudden the yoga teacher or instructor starts like saying some weird kind of Klingon language, that's Sanskrit, probably, right?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. They'll be like, we go into chair pose and they like saying something and I'm like,
yes,
okay, that
yes.
just means chair pose. And I'm like, I don't even know.
Right.
Or downward dog or these other ones. There's this like other string of syllables and stuff
Yes.
that mean that for them. And I'm always just like confused during that part.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all gonna demystify some of those strange utterances.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Which is the most prevalent? What would you say?
Oh gosh.
Your smile. Which are the 5 most prevalent Sanskrit words in yoga, do you think? Which ones do you say?
5
Well,
most
you could, or
prevalent?
10, I don't care. The numbers are arbitrary. Which ones do you use the most in yoga?
Okay, let's see. Well, the 5 that I use are probably not the most common. I don't use a whole lot of Sanskrit when I'm talking about the postures.
Okay.
And so that might be more common in other classes where they're using the names of the postures. So like you said, chair pose, and they may say chair and then Utkatasana, right?
Utkatasana.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Did I say it right? Utkatasana
Yes.
is chair pose.
It's actually fierce pose. But yeah, I think we refer to it as chair because it's.
Well, sitting down without a chair is a fierce posture.
Yes, there you go.
Because there's not a chair there, y'all.
No.
Not a chair there anywhere to be
No.
found. But you're pretending you're in a chair.
Right.
And that's some fierceness right there.
Yeah.
Utkatasana.
Yeah.
Utkatasana.
Mm-hmm.
Chair pose.
Yeah. So I think that's probably most common is like hearing the asana names, right? Okay, that's a word, asana, right?
Asana. That's a Sanskrit word.
Yeah. So
Asana
it means
means
like posture.
Posture.
Yeah.
Asana.
And that one's often mispronounced as asana.
Asana.
Yeah.
Like what the Dutch people go into
Right.
during the wintertime to warm up their body. But it's not. It's asana.
Right.
Asana.
Yes.
It means posture.
Right.
Utkatasana means chair pose.
Fierce pose.
Fierce pose. It means fear pose.
Right, yeah.
Fierce pose.
Yeah, but
Utkatasana.
yes. It is the chair pose.
It is the chair pose, but it doesn't mean chair pose. It means fierce pose.
Or something like that.
Utkatasana, fierce pose, aka chair pose. Asana, posture.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Another one that I might use. I often say the pranayama practice samavritti. And so sama's, like same or
Samavritti.
equal. Uh-huh.
You put a little roll on it. Vritti.
Uh-huh.
Samavritti. Does that do right?
Yeah.
Say it again.
Samavritti.
Samavritti. What's that mean?
So sometimes vritti is translated as like a fluctuation. So for instance, in the Yoga Sutras, it says like chitta vritti, and it's referring chitta's mind. And so it's like the activity of the mind, the fluctuations, the thoughts, right?
Okay.
So here it's referring to the breathing technique of equal breath. And so you can imagine like the inhale and the exhale. I visualize like the undulation of the breath, it being equal or same.
Okay.
So it's as if you just inhale to like a 4 count and you exhale
to a 4 count.
Right.
And that's samavritti.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the other one was chitta vritti?
Yeah, and so that's the mind's
mind
fluctuations or the activity, right? Thoughts, yeah.
Samavritti is the balancing the breath,
Right.
the fluctuations of the breath being equal.
Yeah.
samavritti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go back to the beginning. We got utkatasana, fierce pose.
Mm-hmm.
Asana,
Mm-hmm.
posture.
Yeah.
Samavritti
Mm-hmm.
is the
The breathing
fluctuations of the breath,
practice of
breathing.
yeah.
And you said another one that I think is a Sanskrit word,
Uh-huh.
pranayama.
Yes.
Is that, did I say that right? Pranayama?
So you remember earlier when I was saying how there are these words that I've heard for decades, right? Or 2 decades, however long, that are mispronounced
Uh-huh.
often. And then I have to kind of go back and like actually look at the letters in Sanskrit to see how to pronounce it. So that's one of them. In my mind, the 2 vowels are long, like pranayama, but I don't think that's right. So I'd actually have to look at the actual,
the word.
yeah, in Sanskrit to then know how to pronounce it.
Can we look it up?
You can, yeah.
Okay. While
Yeah.
I do that, think of your next word to teach me.
Okay.
would I
So
spell
one
this?
that is commonly mispronounced is well, let me see how you say it. What is the word for the verses that you may repeat over and over again, like chant? What is the word for that?
Like a mantra?
There you go, mantra. So that A is actually short, so it's mun instead of mon. So mantra instead of mantra.
Okay. There's just a bunch of lines and weird stuff there. I don't even know. It seemed like
Yeah, so that's what.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, so you see the line over the A?
Uh-huh.
That means it's long.
Okay.
So ah rather than
Okay, so
Yep. Prana.
prana yama.
Right? So earlier I mispronounced it because
Yama.
I said pranayama.
Yeah.
Right?
Pranayama.
So it's supposed to be pranayama.
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 Yes.
And that means breath. Does that mean breath?
No, it's if you hear it in a yoga class, it's referring to a breathing practice.
It's a breathing practice.
Yes, yeah.
Pranayama.
That's not the literal translation, but yes.
Yeah,
it's
breathing
like a
practice.
breathing practice.
Utkatasana, fierce pose.
Uh-huh.
Asana, posture. Oh man. Vritti. Samavritti.
Mhm.
That one almost sounds like kind of Transylvanian, vritti, or Russian.
Yeah.
Samavritti.
You don't have to roll as much, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just like having fun with it.
You are, and that's fine. Yeah.
Samavritti.
Yeah.
Is the fluctuations of the breath and then being in balance.
Same breath, yeah.
And then
Equal.
pranayama is a breath practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's 4. And you were talking about the 5th, but I wasn't listening because I was looking on my phone.
Oh, yeah.
They were listening.
Yeah. So it is.
Bring me up to speed.
It is the word. So you pronounce it mantra, right?
Oh, mantra.
Yeah. But the A is short, so it's mantra.
Mantra.
Mm-hmm.
Mantra.
Yeah.
Mantra.
Yeah.
And that's like a chant that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
Mantra.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some poses. These people might hear when they're doing yoga at their studio. They hear Utkatasana. I've heard that one.
Yes.
Fierce pose.
Yes.
Utkatasana. And I've heard asana.
Uh-huh.
And pranayama.
Mm-hmm.
What's another what's another pose that's Sanskriti?
Okay, let's see. One that you will hear often, I guess. I don't know what's out there these days.
Yeah.
I don't take classes outside. It's downward facing dog.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
That's our home base
Yeah.
in yoga.
And this is another one that is mispronounced often. And so in my head, I don't think I have it correctly like stored.
Yeah.
So you might have to look it up on your phone.
Do I look up downward facing dog? Is that how do you pronounce it?
I think it's ado, but it could be short A, which is ado. And then it's Mukha Svanasana. I know I picked that one specially for you because the last one is always fun for people.
Here, I got a little picture of it.
Okay.
The name, the pronunciation, and the meaning. There it is. Picture of it.
Okay. Yeah, so it is a short.
Mary,
A.
for all you guys to know now, she's reading Sanskrit. She's not an expert, y'all, but She is an expert.
I am not at all.
She's reading
I
it.
can read like a few
Okay.
asana names at this point.
Okay.
I've lost all my skills.
She's lost all of her skills.
All of them.
Except for
So it is a short A. So it's ado.
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 Adoa.
No.
Ado.
Okay, hold on. Ado.
Ado.
Yes.
A deer, a female deer, a ray, a drop
like
of
how you
golden
added
sun.
the adoa.
Ado.
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 Mukha.
Mukha.
Shvanasana.
Shvanasana.
Yeah, that was good.
Ado.
Ado.
Ado. Ado. Mukha.
Uh-huh.
Shvandasana.
No. Shvanasana.
Shvanasana.
Yeah. It might help you if you look at the lines. Like,
oh my goodness. Those lines are okay.
So you see how the line over the A, that's ah. And then the little
Are you looking at the letters or are you looking at the oh my goodness? You're in the
both.
wrong place. What the heck? I'm sorry. Get out of there. Okay. Oh my goodness. I don't know how you get to Ado from that. There's U with the line over it, RDHVA.
Wait, you're on a different one. That's Urdhva. That's a different posture. Where are you now?
Oh, it's this one right here.
Yeah, you're on a different posture.
Isn't that
That's upward facing.
Oh, my bad. Ado.
Not downward.
Okay, you're right. My bad. I got to go downward. Here's downward.
There you go.
Ado. Mukha. Shvasana.
Shvan.
Asana.
Asana.
Shvan. Because you got asana in there. Posture.
Right.
Right? So
right.
Udo.
Ado. Okay.
Ado. Mukha.
Shvanasana. Yeah.
It's kind of like Swanasana. Shvanasana. No. Look at that face. I'm gonna get there. Just
yeah.
Utkatasana, okay?
Yeah, you got it.
Fierce pose. Asana, posture.
Yeah.
Pranayama is the breath practice. Oh man. Mita. No, not Mita. That was the brain one. That was the fluctuations of the brain.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Vritti. Samavritti is the balancing of the breath, making them equal.
Okay.
And then we did mutra.
No, we didn't, but that's a good one.
You mantra. You said mutra.
Mantra.
Mudra. This might take This might take a bit, but mutra.
You're doing great.
Mutra. Ado. Mukha. Ado.
See?
Ado.
I didn't correct you and you did it
Mukha.
on your own.
Shvanasana.
So that S, think of it as like sh. So
Shvan.
Yes.
This isn't something we say in English. We never shvan. Shvanasana. This just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm stretched outside of my comfort zone here, and that's what you guys tune in for. Y'all tune in for that. Me failing at Sanskrit. Ado, Mukha, Shvanasana.
Woohoo!
It's like a skateboard trick. I'm like trying to do an ollie. And I might do it. Like I'm like rolling up to it. I'm like, Ado, Mukha, Shvanasana.
Yeah.
Shavanasana.
No.
You
did it right the first
Sometimes
time.
I get the trick. Sometimes I don't get the trick, you know?
Okay, right?
Shvanasana.
And then one day you just keep getting the trick. You just keep
getting it right.
Yeah. It's like over and over and over.
Okay.
And then you're an expert.
Then I'm an expert. That is Sanskrit time with Mary. We learned about it.
So we're doing a series of these and we're not doing that again.
We're not? We got to do more of them. There's more poses for me to learn.
Yeah, okay.
You didn't like it?
It was okay.
It was a bad experience for you?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Why'd you say that then? Just to be a little sassy?
Yeah.
Was that sassy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to learn. I didn't even learn child's pose.
That's, yeah.
Don't tell me now I'm fooled up.
Okay.
You just keep that one under your hat.
Mm-hmm.
There's like that one. There's a bunch of them.
There is a bunch. Yeah. At this point, like, who knows how many?
If I've thought of yoga. This is all the part where we're kind of sharing the beauty and wonder of Studio Truth. It's an easier word to say. Studio Satya, and they're on North Anderson on Anderson Lane,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in between North Lamar, and like Burnett,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
closer to North Lamar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A cool little studio. I've been in there. Man, it's so cool. It has like a nature vibe. There's like plants hanging from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like toddler yoga, like with crawlers. What do you call that one?
Toddler and crawler.
Toddler and
Yeah.
crawlers. There's like
Toddler, yeah.
prenatal. So if you're pregnant, it's like all different stages of life.
Yeah.
Like if you're pregnant and you want to do yoga, there's someone that supports you there. If you have young kids and you want to do yoga, there's toddlers and crawlers, and they happen to get excited during the Shavasana,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of cool. It invites you into acceptance during your like meditative death pose.
Yeah.
There's also like a bunch of types of yoga, from activating and
Yeah.
more. This is we're gonna talk about this with either another one of you, either Carly will talk to me about this, or
Yeah.
Holly, or the next time we talk. But like the different types of
Types,
yoga,
yeah.
whether it's yin, restorative,
Hatha,
hatha,
vinyasa.
vinyasa,
Mm-hmm.
all of the different
Yeah.
kinds. And like I want them to know, and I want to know, well, how are they different? But you guys offer all of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you offer them darn near during every day part.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have them in the morning all the way into the evening, every day of the week, 7 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like any day of the week, there's going to be an in-person and virtual yoga that folks can attend.
Yeah. And we're hoping to add more too, you know?
You are?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't really have 7:30, for instance, like PM classes, and students have said,
Let me help you with that pronunciation.
yeah. Yeah. Help me.
Said.
Said.
It's good.
Thanks.
Said.
Students have said. Yeah, they want more evening classes. So
Yeah.
even though it may feel like they're at every time of the day, there's room for growth there.
There's room for growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you could take it online anywhere in the world, or you could take it here in Austin.
Mhm.
It's a really cool experience I've had, and I'm excited to continue having, is showing up and filling that room with mats and
Mhm.
having a cool experience.
Mhm.
Anything else you want to share with people as you're kind of celebrating your studio?
I think you've said it all. Different types,
The location,
community. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's. Yeah.
we're going to continue sharing aspects with everyone I talk to.
Mhm.
And I'm even going to wear the gear. They've got the coolest merchandise. Their symbol is like, is it a lotus
It's like
flower?
lotus petals.
Petals?
around-
It's the
yeah.
coolest. Y'all's like branding is really cool. I love it. And the colors y'all chose.
Mhm.
So there's that too. If you want to get styly, you
Yeah.
can get Studio
Swag.
swag.
Mhm.
Swag off. I was supposed to wear some today, but I forgot. I also left my mat at the studio. I think
okay.
it's there,
Uh-huh.
or it's in the parking lot. I don't know where it
I'm
is.
sure it's there.
I imagine it's got my name on it. So
Mhm.
okay,
Okay.
do you feel good about the improv part?
Yeah, that wasn't at all what I was expecting. I thought we were gonna like do something.
I do normally do something,
Uh-huh.
but we filled that time with talking about something we did was improv for me. I don't know how to
Okay.
Sanskrit.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure, that works.
Kind of fun and play. We can do the improv part next time.
Okay.
Yeah, we play games like Meerkat. We're like, you're so expressive. Your nonverbal communication is it's kind of fear, but also like fun fear.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm feeling right now.
Meerkat is like
What is meerkat?
Meerkat is not the animal meerkat. It's mirror cat.
Oh,
Mirror
I
cat.
thought we were okay.
Yeah, you thought we were gonna be like, I'm a meerkat. No, like
Okay.
it's like one person will move and the other one will mirror
Oh,
them.
okay.
And then at a certain point, without communicating, they'll take the reins and then it'll switch from mirror
Mm.
to
And how long do you do this?
how it's just, I feel it.
Okay.
We feel it. Both people feel it as long as it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I did improv for a long time. It was part of my kind of spiritual journey.
Carly does improv or used to. So
Boom.
she'd be the perfect person for this
Well,
meerkat situation.
well, I plan to play improv games with all of y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I get a vote?
You do get a vote.
Okay.
You can always opt out of these things.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, Mirror Cat was one of them. The other is Sound Ball, where we like send a sound and a gesture back and forth.
Oh,
Like I send one to you,
wow.
you mirror it, you do it, and you make the
Uh-huh.
sound, and then you come up with your own one and you send it back to me.
That sounds fun. I might do that
It
one.
is fun.
Okay.
The other one is Convergence, where we say a word and we both say a word and we try to converge our word to be the same word, also known as mind meld.
Oh,
There's a handful
you
of
got a
them.
lot of them.
I got a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them. And you know what? Improv is a mindful practice.
Yeah.
Being here now,
Yes.
taking in the other and letting them influence you and building a world together
Mm-hmm.
and breathing
Sold.
and being scared. You're scared. How many times have I gone up to the front of the improv line where I was going next, and instead of paying attention to the performance or the
Mm-hmm.
people playing in front of me, I was just thinking about what I was going to do.
Uh-huh.
And then I get to the front, and my practice is if I've done that, I got to throw that down. I got to put that aside and
Mm.
pull it from the dark void of my, you know, my whatever, and come up with something new. Trust myself to go from nothing to something in a moment. How often we're improving life
That's true.
if we're doing
Yeah.
it right.
Mm-hmm.
That's that Ram Dass, be here now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, life story time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
How you feel about talking about your life story?
I find that to be more easily approachable
You
than
do?
like yeah.
I want to share a disclaimer first. I was going to share this later, but what I've noticed is with folks that talk about their life story,
Mm-hmm.
afterwards they'll have a bit of a hangover, like an authenticity or vulnerability hangover. They'll say, "Well, I shared something that I'm now ruminating about,
Mm.
thinking I shared too much, or someone might see this and it might impact my relationship somewhere else." So
Mm.
I want to like let you know that first because I want you to leave here happy or at
Mm.
least comfortable with what you shared.
Mm-hmm.
Folks have shared all kind of different stuff
Mm-hmm.
about their because we start at childhood and I like to understand
Oh, really? You go
people's
way back?
yeah.
Oh,
Well, I think primary conditioning occurs in the home. Most of the people I
yeah.
talk to are seekers, and normally
Mm-hmm.
that comes from some original trauma or original
Mm-hmm.
kind of rupture between their caregiver. And I'm interested
Yeah.
in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that can be a sensitive subject.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to talk about anything. You can talk about whatever you're comfortable talking about.
Okay.
But I'll ask you those questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like coal mine country? I don't know
I
anything about
don't
Kentucky. I don't know
know.
about Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, we moved when I was 4.
Okay. So
Yeah.
where would you spend most of your life?
We moved around. So my mom was a single mom for a large portion, and then she was married 4 times. And so with being a single mom, we would move to wherever she could get a better paying job. Or if she was getting married, then we might move with her spouse, right? So we moved around a lot. So until I arrived in Austin, I would say I don't really know where I would like name my home. Um, so yeah, we moved from Bowling Green to Reno, Nevada, and then we just kind of bounced around. We spent a lot of time in like North Carolina and South Carolina for a portion. My mom now lives in Nashville, and my dad lives still in Bowling Green. So yeah,
What was that like?
moving around.
Did you have siblings or was it you?
I had a younger brother. He's 4 years younger.
And y'all moved around together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that like? I imagine that'd be stressful.
When you're young, like that's all you know,
Yeah.
right? So you don't think like, oh, this is stressful. This is just life, right?
Mm.
So I think at certain points I liked it because I was exposed to different cultures, different places, um, and it kind of instilled in me a desire to travel, to be in challenging situations where you kinda have to figure it out with a new culture or a new town or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then other parts, it was really hard. I remember when we moved to, was it yeah, Franklin, Tennessee. Well, yeah, okay. I'm not gonna get lost in the details. But we moved to Franklin, and Franklin is kind of a richer town.
More affluent.
And yeah, I think because maybe there's like a lot of country music art. I actually have no idea why it is the way that it
There's
is,
more money
but
there.
there's more money there. And we were poor, and I was the new kid on top of being noticeably poor, like in what I wore, my hair, all of it, right? And so that was hard because I got picked on. So sometimes being the new kid was challenging, but yeah, I never really thought about it being stressful. It's just what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So poor. That had been, what was that like?
That was hard. I remember we lived in a trailer in North Carolina, um and I remember my mom really struggling, and we sometimes wouldn't have food, and there may be things like in the cupboard, like an old box of macaroni and cheese and like a can of tuna or something, right? And so my mom, her name is Mary Ann Conyers. Now she's Richardson, but she would go by Mac. And she would make what was called Mac Surprise. And my brother and I knew, we're like, oh no.
Whatever was in the pantry?
It's like whatever was in the pantry, and sometimes it was good and sometimes it was
Oh
disgusting.
my goodness.
Yeah, and so I was aware. I knew. It was like that we didn't have money, and that it was a struggle for my mom. Um and sometimes I didn't feel safe, and so that was challenging too. Um
You
so
didn't feel safe.
yeah, like, I remember one time being like, we were in the trailer and maybe we had a babysitter, but I don't remember there being an adult there. And, somebody came to the trailer, and I think he was obviously intoxicated, and he was demanding that we let him in, and so maybe he didn't realize that was in his trailer, but I remember feeling really scared, and there were lots of moments like that, just not feeling safe.
Because you're in environments that are probably depressed. Well, but financial, I don't know if this is true, but places that have less money or wealth tend to have probably more crime and addiction, or at
Mhm.
least that crime and addiction is more outside of the home. It's like more, I think
Mhm.
rich people have just as much addiction and crime. It's just different crime. It's like a
Right,
white
right.
collar crime, and the
Mm.
addiction is in their, I don't know, their theater room or something.
Mhm.
But in like
Mm.
more economically depressed areas, it's like on the street in the
Mhm.
corner. And is that true?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yes. Yes. But, it's not that I was aware of a lot of crime, but yes, I think what you're saying is
Yeah.
valid.
And that,
But I think there was also people that came into our lives that weren't safe as well, so
like your mom's boyfriends or
yeah, 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 and I think probably just kinda I mean, like, that man is a perfect example, just having
strangers.
right, more interactions with people where it just doesn't feel safe, but then, of course, what you just said is true too, so, like, my mom's her second husband yeah, I think her second husband was physically abusive, and that was before my brother came around, and, so we ended up living in a women's shelter. She tried to escape him. And so some of these things I have, very, like, vivid memories,
Because you witnessed some of the
and
abuse?
so I don't have a memory of witnessing, but I have a feeling. Like for instance, I remember being in a room, like in the apartment, and staring at these curtains and having the feeling like I know what's happening and being very scared, right? But I didn't witness it.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that could be.
You could have dissociated.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I think there was. for the early part of my childhood, there wasn't a lot of stability and there was a lack of safety.
Safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what kind
Yeah.
of work did your mom do?
At that time, she was managing restaurants, and so she would, um I don't know what the title would be, but, like, she'd be in charge of a district, like a lot of the
Regional manager?
yeah, oh, hey, look at you, regional manager, just yeah,
I just whipped
yeah,
that out.
yeah. So, yeah. For, like, the big, corporations where it's
Like, she
like
would have, like, Applebee's in all of the
right,
South or
right, right,
something.
right, right, yeah,
Like 4 or
yeah.
5 of them.
And so that's why we would move during that point of time, because she would maybe move to a different district, right?
Okay.
And be in charge of, like, kind of getting them up and running, performing better, right?
And it sounds like her barometer for picking a mate was
Yeah.
skewed. She attracted,
Yeah.
you know, what are they? People that were works in progress
Yes.
or folks
Very
that were
much
bringing
so.
with them the cycle of violence.
Yeah.
Did she have that? The cycle of violence? My mom did. It was part of her history. So she would invite
Mhm.
those dynamics, I think, as much as the other would.
It's interesting because not that I know of. I mean, alcoholism is, like, rampant in our family.
Uh-huh.
But her father, my granddad, I never knew him to be violent and in any way. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was, like, a history of not talking about things in my family. So, and even if you did, it was sometimes kind of like pushed under the rug, or like, that didn't happen. You're like, no, it really did.
Mm.
So I actually don't know
Yeah.
the answer to that. Hmm.
How do you how did you it was just you and your brother and your mom then a lot of times. That was the
Hmm.
core.
Until I was 8, and then my mom married my current stepdad. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you had that stepdad for a
Mhm.
long, long time.
Mhm.
I had an evil stepdad. Was yours evil?
He wasn't I wouldn't say he's evil, but he did a lot of harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think mine was really evil, but I think
Yeah.
he definitely did a lot of harm.
Yes.
The way I think about it now from like an empowered place is he was he was dealing with his own trauma
Right.
and kind of his own
Mhm.
cycle of violence that he was unable to free himself from.
Right.
And and
Yeah.
I was a part of that.
Right. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
What was your relationship with your mom like?
So, it's an interesting relationship, has been, still is. I love my mom's, like, so much. I think that she is I can't even imagine being a single mom and doing all that she did,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that just seems nearly impossible. But at the same time, you know, I think that she has not, like, processed some things that kind of hinder her ability to connect and see reality. So to give you an example, like, my current stepfather was abusive, and I told her when I was 10. And, her response was that she went and talked to him, and then she came back and they decided that I was having, like, prepubescent dreams, related to hormones, and so what happened were dreams, right? And so going back to, like, there's this history of not wanting to talk about things or kind of putting things under the rug, right? And I think her religion is part of that. She's Catholic and she could not get divorced again because getting divorced in the Catholic Church is just, it's a sin. And so because of that, I can imagine as a single mother how hard that was being married and thinking like I can't if I accept this, then I would have to divorce this
Yeah. You'd
person,
have to go
right?
down a path that you don't want to go down or you
Right.
feel like you can't go down.
Right. And so because you know, well that truth and just like historically, not not looking at things and processing things like that was her response, right? And so of course that's going to impact our relationship. And so for a long time I was like, well, I can't talk to my mom about things,
Yeah, it
right?
sounds like gaslighting.
Well, it is. It totally is.
You're
Yeah.
saying, "This is my experience." They're going, "Oh, no, that's this dream
Right.
you're having."
Right. And so then that creates a sense of like not feeling safe, right?
Yeah,
This is your mother who's supposed to protect you,
right.
right? And then also, I was young, I was 10 years old. And so for a little while, I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm having these dreams. How can my mind be this? How can my mind fail me in this way?
Yeah,
You know? And then once I hit my like teenage years, it's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
you can cuss.
That's what immediately came up for me was a cuss word. Because in my teenage years, yeah, I was like, this is bullshit. Like this is, what they told me was their, uh, yeah, I don't know if I have the words for it in this moment, but yeah, I realized quickly like that what was kind of fed to me wasn't true. And so then our relationship was strained during that period of time. So we've had a lot of,
Ups and
bumps
downs.
and yeah. But we're still, I don't know, we're still close with boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of coping strategies did you learn through that childhood? Like, how did you, some folks fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yeah. For me, so in the beginning, it was I'd say like freeze, and then fawn. Then when I hit my teenage years and I was like, this
Oh, no, you didn't. It
right.
was fight.
It was fight. And it was fight for a long time.
You were
Yeah.
angry.
So angry. And that's why going back to, what we were talking about earlier, that can be a default for me,
Yeah, I
right?
hear that.
Is when there is a like very strong emotion like sadness, which that's what it was then,
Absolutely.
total sadness. It wasn't, yeah. Anyways, yeah, then my default is anger.
Did the freeze incorporate a dissociation? Did you feel like you came
Yeah.
outside of your body?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that like?
Not fun.
Did you like see yourself?
Um,
Were you like,
no, not I mean, I don't really have a memory of that. It's more like I don't there's whole periods of time that I don't remember. And I only have like 2-second
snippets?
visualizations or memories. So like for instance, the curtain thing that I just described, like being in a room, seeing the curtain, and then knowing like there's,
Something's going on that's not
yeah, it's
cool.
violent.
That's
Yeah.
violent.
Yeah. And that's like 2 seconds. Right. And I didn't even know that was a real thing until later on in life in my 20s. I'm going through my mom's closet to look for something and I pull out the curtain. Right. I was like, wow, this curtain was real. That moment was real. So it's stuff like that where
You
I have,
shut down, you stopped taking in information because it was too much.
right.
Kind of like a possum plays dead
Mm-hmm.
to survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sounds really hard
Mm-hmm.
to be a small child navigating a world that's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the coping strategies that, how did you cope? You disassociated or you freeze or fawn or like people
Mm-hmm.
pleased
Mm-hmm.
when
Yep.
you were 10.
Yep.
What did that mature into when you're in college? Like,
In college, so in my early 20s, well, I didn't go to college. So in my early 20s, then that anger kind of turned into like self-medicating, so lots of drugs,
yeah.
But that didn't last too long. It was only a few years. Last too long, that's a long time,
Yeah.
but given the circumstances,
Yeah.
going back to what I said earlier, I'm surprised that, it didn't last longer and that I actually survived it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when I was 20, I was in a relationship, like my first love, and he recognized that he needed to be sober and then that made me think, well, maybe I should also be sober because this has gotten out of hand, right? And then he was a musician. He's like, I think I'm going to travel a little bit solo. to try and practice like celibacy, sobriety, and to do some heavy work, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
A 20-year-old?
Yep.
That's a that's a pretty insightful thing for a 20-year-old to want to do.
He's a phenomenal person.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to practice celibacy,
Mm-hmm.
sobriety, and go on a
Like Jack
walkabout. Yeah.
Kerouac
Yeah.
situation where he drives around and plays.
And
And
Jack
yeah.
Kerouac would have probably done drugs
Well,
then.
right. The sober Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was if I had good intentions with this or not. I don't know if I was trying to one up him, but I was like, well, I'm gonna go to India and I'm gonna be celibate celibate and sober and practice yoga and study with a teacher, right?
You
And
one-upped
so
him.
yeah.
You one-upped your way into enlightenment. Like,
And so I did. So I at 20 I went
I'll
to
show
India for the
you,
first time.
dude.
Yeah.
I'll go get enlightened. Okay.
Uh,
So you went to
funny.
India for the first time when you
Yeah.
were 20.
20. Yeah.
20.
And that was, of course, life-changing, right? And then that kind of set me on a different path.
Studying yoga in India when you were 20 something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How long were you there?
So I had saved up to be there for a year, 2 years, and was ready, right? And then 3 months in, I did not make very good decisions back then, like from the beginning, like I am just single female 20 years old gonna go to India by myself and not plan anything and just arrive in the city. Probably not the wisest thing to do. I'm also going to take out all of my money out of the bank account and carry it in cash. Why? I don't
Oh my
know.
goodness. So
And
I kind of see the foreshadowing there.
right. And then on a bus that was packed, like those buses that you're just like shoulder to shoulder and there's chickens and all the things.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get off the bus and someone very easily just probably pulled out my like one of those like it was the thing that you normally wear under your shirt, like a little like for your passport, right?
Yes.
And I had all my money in it, so thousands of dollars of cash and
Oh my God.
gone.
You
Yeah.
were robbed. How long were you there when that happened?
That was 3 months in.
Oh my God.
And then I ended up staying a little bit longer because I didn't have a passport and I had no money. I was like, how am I going to do this? I have to travel to the embassy, which is completely across India on the other side. And I need money to do that. And then I have to get a new passport. And that's a whole nother story. So I ended up staying a little over. I don't know how much over, but 3
You were
months.
stranded in India
Yeah.
with no money and no passport.
Yeah. And see, there's where my mom came in, right? So this interesting relationship where sometimes when I needed her the most, like she shows up, and so she did everything she could to get me into the embassy because it was hard to, well, I'm not going to get into that. It's a long story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she helped. She helped me get an appointment at the embassy. She was able to wire me a little bit of money so that I could get there and then yeah. Mhm.
What was the yoga aspect of that trip like? Did
So, yeah, I was practicing Ashtanga yoga at the time. And so Ashtanga yoga, um, well, back then there was one teacher that you would go to. He
Uh-huh.
was famous for teaching Ashtanga yoga.
Who's that?
His name was Patabi Joyce. He has since passed away. But so I went there to study with him. And then when I got there, I realized it's like this isn't my scene.
Was it Indians there or was it a bunch of like Westerners?
Westerners,
It was
yeah.
all Westerners there?
Yeah, and at that point I think he was famous, like Madonna and what's his name?
Paul McCartney or something?
No. Oh my gosh, I actually used to really love his music and I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, like famous people would study with him. And so
Yeah.
it was one of those things where there'd be a line and you'd wait to get in. And it's a certain type of practice where it's not led. You have memorized the postures. They're in the same sequence. So you'd wait in line. Typically, they'd give you a general time slot,
Uh-huh.
and then you'd go, as people leave, you would come in and you'd start your practice. And so everybody's at different points in their practice, and he would walk around and adjust. And yeah.
Do you leave with some certifications? I'm like,
I think you could, but I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would have looked like back then, like how many months, or it was also very expensive. So yeah, and then it was very I don't want to traditional is not the word, but for instance, like women were not allowed to practice when they were menstruating. There's holidays that you would have to take off, and so there was some kind of like strict parameters around practicing that didn't resonate with me.
Right.
And then there was also at that time, India and Pakistan were in, I think they
Fighting
were threatening nuclear war at one point.
Kashmir.
Right. And he would hold these, oh my gosh, I hope there's no like Ashtanga lovers.
Look, if there's any Ashtanga lovers in the audience right now, I need you to earmuffs, okay?
The
Earmuffs real quick.
practice is great. Hey. But so Patabi Joyce would offer these like community Q&A sessions, right? Because you wouldn't talk. You'd go in, you do your practice, you leave. I think it was once a week. And so I had not gone yet. I had not gone to practice with him. I had not gone to one of these Q&As. I had just arrived, but I happened to be staying in one of these places where a lot of the Ashtangis would stay.
Uh-huh.
And so as I was like trying to get over jet lag, I would go to lunch and I would hear them talk and whatever. And so I heard about how they had one of their Q&As and someone asked a question about Muslims in Pakistan, and his response was not great. Like I don't remember the exact words, but basically saying they're all liars, so I don't listen to what they say and blah, 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 right? And so at that point, I thought, this just doesn't.
This dude's not enlightened.
Yeah, and it's not like I was expecting to be in the presence of an enlightened being. I fully understood that the practice that I was doing was quite physical, right?
Okay.
But
Were you seeking enlightenment?
No.
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 You were seeking a skill set.
No, I mean, I was seeking spirituality, right? But I didn't have this belief that all yoga teachers from India are enlightened. I see them as humans, but I did expect him or whatever teacher that I practice with to be more aware, more on the path and evolved in some way spiritually.
Compassionate and empathy. That
Yes.
that loving kindness meditation, metta meditation.
Right.
More, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With that response about these others.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you got a
Yeah.
couple glimpses.
Yeah.
Then you got robbed. The universe took you away from India.
Well, so I ended up finding another teacher, and I did study for 3 months.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
But it
yeah.
wasn't Ashtanga anymore.
It was.
But it was a
So
different teacher.
So here's the interesting thing. Like Patabi Joyce is famous, right,
Uh-huh.
for Ashtanga. But the thing is there were other teachers that were also taught Ashtanga, like
Uh-huh.
the postures, the sequence, and from the same teacher, right? And who knows why he became famous? I have my thoughts and opinions, but who knows?
Yeah.
The teacher that I studied with had the same teacher as Patabi Joyce,
Uh-huh.
was given kind of the same practice, but he focused on other aspects. Like he wanted you to do the breathing practices. He wanted you to do what's called the shakriyas, like these cleansing practices, like the one that's really well known is like the neti pot, right?
Yeah.
And so you had to do a wide variety of other practices under his tutelage or whatever, right? And so I studied with him and continued to practice Ashtanga. And so I did that for 3 months and then had the incident on a bus. And
Probably learned a lot in those 3 months. That's a long time. You were practicing yoga every day, like full time?
yes.
That was your life,
Yeah.
was yoga.
Mhm.
Ashtanga yoga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What happened when you got back? You were, oh, wait. While you're there, you were sober?
Yes.
No drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
You were eating a vegetarian diet? Was it vegetarian?
Yes. Yes.
You probably was the food good over there?
Yes.
It's good food.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It was, no, it's great, but you just had to know where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to know where to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, did you get into any of the religions that were over there? I've interviewed a couple people from India, and they had some, they sacred cows. The cows would run around, and they
Of
would
course, yeah.
they would just
yeah.
they would basically like clean their They were like serving the cows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Well, yoga was a religion. Was it that type of thing for you? It was spiritual.
it was spiritual. Yeah.
Spiritual. But not religion. Yeah. What's the difference between spirituality and religious?
For me, I think religious, it has some like rules and defines things in very specific ways, right? Like God is this,
Like
spirit is
dogma.
this. Yeah.
Dogma. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I see. I see.
Yeah.
What happened when you get back to America? You were in you're still 20 something,
20,
early
yeah, I
20s.
actually turned 21 over there, but yeah, so then I came back. I was back for 3 or 4 years and just practicing living life, and then went back again for the second time, but this time I was doing like an around the world backpacking thing where I would spend like a month in each place.
Wow.
Or when I was in Europe, it might be like 3 days in Barcelona or 1 day in London. So I didn't spend as much time in Europe, but I would try it. Like I spent a month or close to in Nepal and in Thailand. And India, I stayed for a couple months again. But this time I traveled all around India.
And you had a better strategy for finance management?
Yeah. I mean, there's a
You
story.
would just tape money to your shirt?
Yeah.
All
And
these
it
money.
might-
I want this
yeah.
money.
No, I mean, there's a reason why I took my money out. I wasn't just like, I'm gonna take thousands of dollars of cash. There's a reason.
There was a reason.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this time, yes, of course.
You did
I
better.
was more prepared.
Well, where'd you get all this money to go travel the world? Did you just
I mean, I'm
win the
20
lottery?
something.
You just saved up a bunch of
So I
cash?
worked as a restaurant manager and I got paid well.
You followed the family business.
I did. Yeah. In fact, my brother did too. My brother's a restaurant manager. My mom's a midwife now, though. Very different.
Very different.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I worked as a restaurant manager I think at that time I was the kitchen manager. I got paid really well, and I got paid under the table a lot of it. Yeah.
Nice.
And so I was able to
Save a bunch of money.
a lot of money.
When you got back, did the guy crumble under the weight of your achievement in India?
What guy?
The guy that you did it for.
I didn't do it for him. No,
I know
no.
you didn't, but we both know.
No, we don't.
No,
No,
a little bit.
No.
You told him, and you were like, "Listen to this."
You're gonna travel around the United States in your car.
I went
around the world.
I went down to India and learned Ashtanga yoga, and
No, we're still friends, and yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while, but we're still friends. And,
yeah.
yeah.
Did you have the same kind of dude picker as your mom? Did you invite in some bad dudes in your life?
They were not violent towards me.
No.
They were not, and they weren't violent. No.
To anybody.
No, to anybody. But they were, I mean,
Wounded birds?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all wounded birds.
Yeah, some more than well, I think we're all wounded birds. It's like, what are we doing with those wounds?
Yeah, how are you?
Right.
Are you healing yourself? Are you aware of your wounds? Are you
Exactly.
Yeah. Are you keeping those from Carl Jung's? Are you keeping those shadows in front of you?
Right. Yeah.
Instead of hidden down there, wreaking havoc.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So you did this world tour. Sounded like you went some awesome places.
Yes.
With this under the table cash from restaurant management.
Yep.
Were you practicing yoga and learning from people? You were. Yeah. With teachers, different teachers?
Yeah, and so I did go back to study with the same teacher.
You did?
I did.
Did he remember you? He was like, "Oh, Mary, you're back."
He did. Yeah.
I missed you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he was very sweet, very kind, and I would spend time with him and his wife and his family.
Really?
Yeah. His name was Shashadri.
Shashadri. Do you still communicate with him?
I don't. No, I haven't since then.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so when so I went back, I studied with him, but then when I was traveling around, I would just go, like I would see flyers or hear from other people in cafes of different yoga teachers, and I would just try anything and all the things.
Whoever the most popular teacher was in the area?
No, not popular, because I didn't want that, but it might be just like I remember somebody told me about an experience they had. It ended up being Kundalini yoga, but they were talking about the experience, and I was like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
They weren't popular, but they were somehow I would hear about it, right? And it would be interesting to me, or it seemed authentic or steeped in the tradition. There was just some
authenticity.
Yeah. And so that's what I would gravitate.
Would you stick with those teachers for a while?
No.
It would just be you were just doing like a sample platter.
I might go for a couple classes. And,
okay.
Yeah.
But you're learning.
Right.
You're synthesizing all that
Right.
stuff
Mhm.
in some
I
subconscious.
stayed with Shashadri for, a few months
Oh,
and
you
would practice
did?
with him every
Oh,
day.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's a it's so funny time. It's like how long was I there total? And then I don't know how long I was with him versus like moving around, but it seems like it was a long time, but it
Man,
probably wasn't.
you're a legit yogi. Legit yogi. Why are you
We're
shaking
going
your
back
head?
to the expert terms.
I said legit.
I know,
You're
I
like, I'm
know.
sneaking another term in there. You're like, nah, I
No,
smell what you're cooking,
no,
Phil. You're just trying to say expert in a different way. But
no.
that's a unique experience
Sure.
to travel the
Mhm.
world, to study with someone from the region or the areas where yoga originated, and to bring
Mhm.
that back to America.
Mhm.
You would be skilled.
I feel like
You'd
a
have
lot of people were doing it at that time. Like if you
yeah,
were studying yoga, that's what at some point you would do.
you would do
Right.
that.
No, that doesn't happen anymore, but back then that was just,
A lot of people were doing it.
I feel like, I don't know.
Did you go native when you were there, or did you hang out with
Wait,
other?
what does that mean?
When you go native, that's when you hang out with locals and you kind of
Oh,
immerse yourself in the culture. You don't
yes.
hang out with other kind of foreigners.
Yeah.
You eat the food, you dress the clothes, you probably find you an Indian boyfriend. You
No.
learn how to talk the
Yeah.
language.
I think I was probably somewhere in the middle,
I
right?
know.
Um, yeah, because for instance, like I wanted to learn sitar, and so
Ooh, you
I
learned
would
sitar?
I tried. That is a hard instrument, at least for me it was. But I had no like previous exposure to guitar or anything, so it was really challenging. But anyways, so for that, like I would try to ask around, like, if I went to a cafe, I'd ask the person there, "Hey, do you know any sitar teachers?" And so because of that, then yes, I would end up being with a sitar teacher, like where I was the only Westerner,
You
right?
were traveling alone?
Yeah.
And then again,
Mm.
what was that like being a woman
Hard.
traveling the world alone?
Sometimes, and that's why I say it was in the middle, because sometimes I would meet somebody, like if I went to a yoga class and I met somebody and they're going to Mumbai, which I think is called something different now. But, if they were going somewhere, it's like, I want to go there, let's go together, because it was safer to be with another person, right?
Travelers.
Yeah. But then there were lots of times where I traveled on my own, right? And as a white Westerner, it's probably not like this at all anymore, but there was kind of this maybe perception among some people that I was a very sexual human being, right? And so they would assume that, and so I would. I was exposed to things, that like, why is this person showing me his, or whatever it may be. And so it was much safer to be with someone to, not have to deal with situations
You
like
got the
that.
old school, nowadays you'd call it a dick pic. You got the old school one where it was the real, just there's my.
Or like, I don't know if you want me to go into this or
Mm,
not, but there's a lot of examples
you
of
just
stuff
give
like
us,
that.
you can give us one, and if we need to, we'll
You
just
can edit it out.
edit it out.
Okay, yeah. So for instance, I remember I was traveling on a train and I was on the top bunk. They would have these bunks that fold down so you could sit during the day and lift it
Okay.
up. I'm on the top bunk, and between me and the next bunk on the other side is like this metal. It's not a wall because it has like
Like void. Yeah,
holes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like railings, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rails.
And I woke up and there was a guy in the bunk next to me looking at me, and
It's doing, he
his
was self-pleasuring,
right.
pleasuring
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah, and so that's an example, right? And I would talk to other women who they'd be on the beach, and then all of a sudden this guy
You
next to
know
them.
how I know I've got work to do? When you shared that story, the first thing I thought was, well, what were you wearing up there? I know that's wrong.
Whoa.
Hey, I'm
Yeah.
sharing that. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
sharing
yeah.
that. That's my
Yeah.
work to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what you were wearing.
Right.
But I think some things could be more stimulating than others.
Right. But to answer your question, like fully clothed
Fully clothed.
and probably a blanket on
A
top.
blanket on top.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm going with that guy's, that's an inappropriate response to a sleeping lady. But I think there's no way a lady could sleep
Okay.
that would make that appropriate.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
But I just
Good
want to
job. Good
preface
job.
it
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I would say some levels of I'm walking a tightrope here.
I
Can
know
I
you
just
are.
backpedal
No,
myself right
you're
out
good.
of this
You're
one?
good. You're good. You're
Get
good.
right out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
There's some levels of dress and thing that would make it more challenging
Not
to
to.
stay in
Okay.
your pure, if you looked over and lady had like a, you know, let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I know. I gave you an out and you just kept going.
I'm sorry.
I was like, okay.
Sometimes I need like a real billboard. Exit here. Exit here. Yeah, give me that. Anyway, so yeah, you had some weird experiences.
Yeah, and so for
Did you just go back to sleep? You're like, I'm just gonna go back
No,
to
I
sleep.
yelled at him.
Oh, you yelled at him.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
he?
Not appropriate. Stop. Something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Ugh.
I would get grabbed and the thing was is like sometimes it was so ridiculous sometimes. Like I remember I was walking one time and a guy came by, like scooters or mopeds or whatever they're called, common vehicle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they go by constantly nonstop as you're walking, and someone came by and went to grab my chest, but they're on a vehicle going like 20 something miles. So it's like
That's gonna hurt.
knocked me back, right? Or they come up behind and grab my butt. Like it was, it was I wouldn't say it was an everyday thing, but it happened a lot.
Enough.
A lot. Yeah.
I mean, one time would be enough, but you're saying a lot with the head nod,
Yeah.
which meant it was like
A lot.
a
Yeah.
lot.
And
Goodness.
so
how did that impact your view of the world and of mankind?
I don't know. I saw it through a lens of I mean, in some ways like sex is different, culture from culture to culture,
Yeah.
right? And then when you see like I remember going to this like this Buddhist monastery, and I went into one of the restaurants and the monks were back making the food, and I look up and there was a poster of Britney Spears. I was like, well, this is weird,
That's kinda weird. Yeah, yeah.
and I realized like there were other people, not just monks, like living in this community, right? And so maybe the owner, I don't know, really loves Britney Spears. I have no idea. But the way that she was dressed, like you would not dress like that,
Right.
right? And so she was very sexualized.
Mhm.
And so if that's what you see of Western white women, then you
They had
may
been primed, like you said, whenever you get something in your idea, then you see it and that's all you think about is that
right.
thing.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think it's complicated, and that's how I viewed it. I was like, this is
Were
complicated.
you
And
practicing celibacy?
at one point I was. I don't remember if it was the whole time. The first time I was there, yes. The second time,
Maybe you had some travel romance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
But you
So
definitely weren't wanting those type of courting scenarios.
no.
The
'Cause
drive-by scooter
no,
situation.
none of it. I didn't want any of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want
Yeah.
any of it either
Yeah.
for you or anybody.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ugh.
So that's why sometimes I would gravitate towards like, okay, I'm gonna travel to North India. Let's make some friends and go together, And then other times
What's in North India? Why is North India important?
I wanted to get to the Himalayas, and so I wanted to get to a place. I don't know how you pronounce it correctly, but is it Dharmasala? Dharmasala, yeah. So the tiny little town where the Dalai Lama will often go to, like that's where he lives in exile, right? And it's
Okay.
itty bitty.
Where
Well,
he
maybe not
fled from
anymore,
Tibet.
but yes. So it's just on the other side of the mountain range,
So you wanted to be near the Dalai Lama.
right? And so at some point, I was trying to make my way up, and I would stop along the way. And if I, you know, met somebody who was also going there, then we'd become friends.
This is a spiritual journey.
Yeah, which is another reason why I wasn't. I mean, I would have never been interested in getting grabbed while walking down the street, right?
Obviously.
But that's another reason why I wasn't, even if I wasn't outrightly practicing celibacy, I was still, because I was there like on this spiritual journey,
Yeah.
right? And that was my focus.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Did you make your way to that town?
I did.
Did you see the Dalai
I
Lama?
did.
What was that like?
So I don't know if I realized at the time, but he will have this, or maybe it happens multiple times a year, but from what I understood, it's like this annual thing where people come from all over the world and they sit and he talks about various things, right? So it's like a teaching.
Dharma talk?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that was happening. And I don't know that I was aware, or maybe I just didn't understand what it meant to have like hundreds, maybe even, I don't know, thousands. I don't know how many people were there,
Uh-huh.
but it was crazy. It was, yeah. And so then we would sit and he would be on the stage and he would talk about various things, Dharma talk. And we would have earphones and you could tune in to the correct translation, right? So somebody was translating it in French and English and whatever it may be,
Yeah.
right? But luckily I got there early, like way before this was happening. So I got to be in the town when it was a lot quieter and yeah. And then he arrived and everybody arrived and yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Mhm.
That is an amazing that's got to be a unique experience that
Mhm.
you have that a lot of other folks don't have.
Mhm.
To be able to sit with the Dalai Lama, hear him provide a Dharma discussion.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so funny. I totally forgotten about it. I haven't probably thought about that in a couple years. Uh-huh.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. That goes back to what I said earlier, like that seems like a different lifetime,
Yeah,
you
because you've
know.
had kids and you're
Yeah.
now doing this other thing.
Right. Mhm.
What happened come forward in time a little bit? What happened
Yeah.
after this journey?
So I think a big thing that happened that kind of changed my life's path again is when I got back. Um, I have this soul sister, best friend of mine, who actually came to India the second time when I
Huh?
was there. And when I got back, I was with her and I hadn't like established roots. I think I was staying at her place or I don't remember. But we were just kind of out and about having fun, decided to go skateboarding and I back then I thought I was just like what's the word I'm looking for? Like immortal. And I had no business being on a skateboard on this high. I don't even know what it's called, where you drop in.
Yeah,
And I
ramp.
ramp, yeah. And I dropped in, and I won't go through the details, but I broke my leg in a really, really bad way where I had to have surgery and screws and a plate.
Yeah, yeah.
Had to learn like how
Walk
to
again.
walk again when because that leg was just like
Yeah.
so that was life changing because I was a strong yogi who traveled the world and all of a sudden I'm in a wheelchair and can't walk for a long period of time. Then I graduated to like a boot and so that was a big learning process and then I they moved this is so then while I was in surgery, my friends, her and another friend moved me into, remember the boyfriend,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Into his mother's house because
Huh.
she and I had gotten really close.
Yeah.
Right. This woman she's amazing. I wish you could sit and talk to her. Like she's just an amazing person. And so I was moved into her house. And then I lived there for a few months, maybe like 6 months or something. And then during that time, like I remember I would like get out of the wheelchair, get on the
You
floor.
had to rely on the kindness of others at
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Because you probably
And
spent all your money on your travels.
right.
You come back, break your leg, and
Yeah.
now, like, how do you make money? How do
Right.
you... And
And
so,
I couldn't make money. I couldn't walk.
no,
I
you couldn't
couldn't
make
get out
money?
for a
Goodness.
while,
Yeah. The
Yeah.
wheelchair jobs.
What?
There's no wheelchair jobs.
Right.
I mean, back
Right.
then,
Which gave me an eye, like it opened up my world.
because you had to slow down.
Because I had to slow down. I also started to see like the world through somebody's eyes that has what may be referred to as a disability.
Yeah,
It's like, wow,
absolutely.
nothing is accessible to
You're
me
relying on
at
the
all.
kindness of
Yeah.
others,
Yeah.
of community.
Right. And then I couldn't do this practice that was like really what kind of healed me
You
in
couldn't
so
do
many
yoga.
ways. Yeah. So then I started reading like this book 1 Year to Live, which is all about, what if you were dying in a year,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I got into the philosophy of yoga and started reading out because before that, yoga was more of a physical practice that helped me feel more spiritually connected. But there wasn't really a spiritual practice practice, if you will, like
Okay.
meditation or chanting or so that's when I started getting into all that. Like, how can yoga be more accessible? Is yoga sitting on the floor and doing a couple stretches, which it was for me at that time, right? And then getting into the philosophy as I started to read all these books and then meditation and yeah. And so that I think is honestly what really shifted things for me and led me to kind of like where I am today, right?
Was the wheelchair experience.
Yeah. The breaking the leg.
Because you couldn't practice yoga in the way you'd known it, it gives you that time and space to invite in yoga in different ways.
Yeah.
The meditation, the
Right.
breathing,
And I was privileged. I had support, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't have to work.
Yeah.
And so that meant I had time to study and to read and to contemplate and all the things.
Contemplative practice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, you are a badass.
Aw.
You're a legit badass.
Thanks.
I have 2 daughters, and I think they should spend time with someone like you, a woman that's a badass.
That's
someone
kind.
that, to travel the world alone, to seek, to be a seeker in that way. What is this all about? To go through what you went through as a small child and that be the fruit of that very disorganized tree is a beautiful thing.
Mm.
And I imagine it took a lot of strength and courage and bravery to do those things, to return there, and probably a healthy, desire for adventure
Mm-hmm.
and novelty, learning and growing through experience. It's admirable in so many ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Goodness. And hearing that, it adds so much depth to who you are in my eyes. Wow. How old are you? Why is that funny?
I don't know.
You're like, I'm 33.
Yeah. No, my birthday is March 8th, so I'm going to be 44.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's like a life, so many lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when did you start supporting other people's yoga practice and other people's yoga journey?
Not until I moved to Austin. So I moved to Austin in 2005. And then I got a job like working as a server in a restaurant.
Stayed in that restaurant business.
I know, right?
Yeah.
While I was living with my, her name is Donna. Well, yeah.
Donna?
Yep.
Is the partner's mom?
Right. Uh-huh. So we moved here together. I don't think she was born here, but she spent a lot of time
This
here.
dude's mom turned out to be one of your
She still is.
besties.
I love her.
Donna?
To death. Yeah. Yeah. So she wrote songs for Willie Nelson and all these other artists, and she's an artist herself, and she's an amazing woman. And I think she kind of opened up yoga as like this really meaningful spiritual practice for me, and I hadn't kind of seen it in that light because she would meditate and just talk about spirituality. But anyways, so I moved here with her because she was going through a divorce. And I actually was living with them as they were kind of, I know,
It hadn't been a
out.
hard time for them.
Yeah, I think it was very hard. And then once they got divorced, she's like, there's nothing keeping me here. I want to move. And I was like, I've been wanting to move.
What town was that in?
That was outside of Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then she's like, well, I've lived in Austin before. I love Austin. And I was like, I'll give it a try. And so I came down here to visit one guy that or maybe we traveled to Austin together. I don't remember. And I was like, okay, this is an interesting place. I don't mind living here for a little while. And it was meant to be a pit stop. I was going to go either to like California or Colorado. I don't remember because I do not like the heat. And so we came, that was 2005, and I've been here
Never left
since, right? Yeah. And then at some point, so I was working a restaurant job. I was teaching yoga like in my house. And then, I got a class at a studio, and then just from there, soon after I was like, I can't really, work at a restaurant and teach because, at the restaurant business, it's challenging. There's sometimes. I don't know about every restaurant, but where I was, there was like a lot of heavy drinking and partying.
Yeah, the restaurant culture tends to be
Yeah.
full of distraction.
And so I ended up giving that up and teaching full time. And then I've been doing that ever since.
And did you find a partner and get married?
I did, yeah. So we got married about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Had some kiddos.
Yeah, his name is Rigoberto. And
Rigoberto Perez.
yep,
Perez.
Perez.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have 2 boys,
Oh.
Micah and Elijah.
Is he into yoga?
Funny enough, like that's how we met. He, let's see. Well, technically we met because he was my neighbor and he was interested in my roommate. She was a massage therapist and he was talking about yoga and she's like, my roommate's a yoga teacher. And so we started talking.
Uh-huh.
And it was just friendly, right?
Right, because
At
he was trying to
first.
get in good
Right.
with your
And he's a really nice guy. And
Yeah.
remember, like, that's not my,
What?
that
That's
was
not
not
your
my,
You don't go for guys like that.
right.
You
I want like not
you wanted a bad boy. He wasn't
right,
wounded
right,
enough for
right.
you.
He wasn't wounded
Yeah.
enough. Well, it turns out he was, but
Yeah.
but he's willing to work on it just like me.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so I wasn't really interested at first. And we were friendly, but yeah. And then he did end up coming to my yoga class, right? And we weren't dating at that time. And so I was fine with that because I have I don't know, I have like boundaries around you don't date yoga students.
You don't.
No, I mean, at a certain there have to be some like I don't know. It's situational. I'll put it that way.
Because of the power dynamic?
Well, I think like the way that I teach, there shouldn't be a power dynamic.
Yeah, you have a very like flat hierarchy vibe.
Right. So the way that I teach, I don't think there should be a power dynamic, but I think
But there always will be if you're at the front of the class and you're kind of holding the wisdom, even if you try to flatten it.
I just think that because that has been an area where people have gotten hurt many times historically.
Yeah.
Like that's something that yoga teachers need to be aware of. And if you have that general rule in place, like I'm not going to date yoga students, right?
Yeah.
But then again, it's situational because I don't know, maybe someone comes along and like, you end up being more friends than you are like yoga teacher, yoga student.
Right.
I don't know. But for me, it was important to kind of have that rule in place, right? Because then it also just made room for like clear communication among students, who might approach me.
But you knew him before he came to your class.
I knew him before, yeah, and I knew he was interested in yoga, and then I got the hint that he was interested in me, and I don't know if it was that, but also he was coming to a class that was physically demanding and required some like prior knowledge, And I was like, you need to go to a beginner series and have that foundation.
Yeah, you need to get out of my class.
Right. And so I basically told him like, you can't come to my class anymore.
Yeah, my class is too hardcore for you. Okay.
For multiple reasons, It's like if you're interested in me, that makes it kind of,
Okay. You were interested too.
Not in the beginning, but yes, eventually.
Old school persistence carried the day.
Right.
Old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he started taking Steven was the owner of that studio. It was called Eastside Yoga, and he started taking Steven's beginner series and then since then he hasn't really come back to my class. No, I mean,
well, he gets privates now, right? Or he doesn't do yoga anymore. He's out of yoga.
Okay.
He was in yoga for the chicks, man.
Yeah. Now I see. Now I see what your intention was. Which I think I probably knew back then too.
Yoga for the chicks.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Yoga chicks are cool. Yoga chicks are cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Goodness. Anything you want to share about your life that we've missed or that we
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Any question you wish I would have asked about your life? What was your wound that you were seeking to heal from? Do you know?
I think there were a few, but I think one was being able to ask for what I need and being heard and um and then back then that means if I was heard I would be protected.
Safety, being
Safety.
seen.
Yeah. And so I think it's still an ongoing thing for me to be able to like communicate what I need, right? And it's gone through different phases. It's like when I was a teenager, I was like, "You're gonna listen to me," this,
Anger phase.
anger, right? And
Yeah.
then being able, so now it's like I'm working, and then I was able to get through that and ask for what I need, but then I may be like really hurt if it wasn't validated or if it wasn't returned or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And so I think currently it's kind of the wound that I'm working on is like asking for what I need. And if it's not given, then being able to use my own tools to kind of, feel sourced or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Accept the no or accept.
Yeah. Well, I think I can accept the no, but then it's the
Give
thing that
yourself whatever
I'm
you wanted that you're asking for.
yeah, it's like accepting the no I can do,
Okay.
right? But then sometimes I may find that I'm like still over functioning or I feel depleted because the part that's missing is I still need to work on then giving myself the thing that is needed.
That you're asking for.
Right. In those situations where it's like they don't have the capacity to give it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that. If you look around my house, you'll notice feelings and needs laminated
Uh-huh.
cards. They're like different places hidden around my house because, I've gone through that. How do I ask for what I need in a healthy way? How do I share emotions and stuff like that?
Mhm.
Mhm. Man, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I didn't anticipate that. I don't
Right.
think you can anticipate that.
Mm.
Everybody has such a wonderful story, and you
Yeah.
do have a
Everybody.
wonderful story
Mhm.
and filled with adventure
Mhm.
and kind of crime, some little seedy parts, some like chaos and trauma at the beginning,
Yeah. Yeah.
and such a wonderful story now that you give back in these shelters where asylum seekers are seeking,
Mhm.
asylum from the places they come from, and also helping people like me develop a practice of yoga.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel real privileged.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm. What did I do?
Well,
I
I
guess
mean,
just got you in the seat. I got you in the seat. That's true.
that is true, but also I think that you naturally create a safe space. And so I think, you mentioned earlier that people have a little bit of a hangover after sharing. And I think that
Mhm.
has something to do with your ability to create a space that feels safe and warm and welcome to where people do say things.
Yeah.
And you're very authentic and genuine and
Oh,
yeah. And
thank you.
it's hard to be those things in the world that we live in these days.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
It's taken a lot of work.
I hear
I
ya.
was a wounded bird, very wounded.
Mhm.
So, oh man, how do you want to wrap up? Sometimes I pull tarot cards. Sometimes I end with a hug. Sometimes, well, however, how do you want
What
to end
does your
that?
intuition tell you?
Oh, my intuition? How does your intuition tell you?
You can't flip it. You can't
I can't flip it. I just did flip it.
No.
Well, I love doing tarot cards.
Okay, do it.
Do you want to do it?
Is this it right here?
That's one version.
Okay.
Do you like those?
Well, I've been looking at them. They're very
You've
interesting.
been looking at them?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then grab
Cool
them.
design.
Grab them. The
Okay.
Wild Unknown. Here's the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but that's the Wild Unknown, which I think is a beautiful deck.
It is very.
I like that one. You could shuffle that one. I've been doing a 3-card pull, a 3-card pull with people. But I wonder, and it's been past, present, and future, but I want to do something different with you and do something in the spirit of my show, which Phil Fails focuses on mind, body, and spirit. And I wonder if we'd do a mind, body, and spirit pull.
Okay.
Which one card? Each card would be mapped to one of those.
Okay.
First, put those aside for a second and let's figure out through the archetype deck what lens we'll look at this pull through. This will be the lens, the archetype, your inner archetype that'll influence how we read this. All right, what'd you pick? It's your card.
Oh.
You hand me the rest of them.
Oh. The flame.
The flame. That maps to your red hair.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Do you
know.
want
What
this
does it
back?
look like?
It's like a pyramid and a pyramid and a pyramid, and there's a flame in the center. I really like the colors here, like watercolor-esque.
It's
Red,
beautiful.
yellow.
What does it say to you? The flame.
I don't know, because it's interesting that it's in this shape. It's like in a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Nothing. It's a perfect card for you.
Okay, what is it?
Well, the first two words are in Sanskrit.
Nuh-uh.
I swear to God.
Wait, what is that book? What is
It's the you looking at in disbelief. It's the guidebook for this
Really?
archetype cards. Yeah, archetype guidebook.
Huh.
And the first two words for this particular card are in Sanskrit. The
Wow.
word for fire is
Agni.
goodness. This is your card.
Is that what it says? Really?
Absolutely, that's what
Oh,
it says.
wow.
You think I'm making it? How could I?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a wizard, but you
Okay.
picked your card.
Yeah.
The flame, the fire, the spark, the glimmer. In Sanskrit, the word for fire is
Agni.
Agni. The ancient yogis saw this flame at the center of the abdomen and believed it to be responsible for our vitality. Talking about yogis? You picked
does that
the
I mean, does
perfect
that book
card.
not talk about these things?
I mean, every card is different, but that's the first one I've ever read that was about yogis in Sanskrit.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
When it is lit, we are connected to our purpose, which we talked about your purpose earlier, and sense that life is a sacred gift. It is said that those who cannot see the sacred around them have let their inner flame go out, which is the balance that we're talking about. Wow. Think of this card as a card to reignite that fire, to cup your hands gently around those things you've forgotten and protect the flame, no matter how harshly the winds around you blow. Like the negativity and the sadness and despair and trauma from your either childhood or from your present moment experience at the shelter. It could be an inner archetype that begs you to light its wick. It is likely that the poet, the mystic, or the shaman would call to you with the language of the flame.
Very cool.
Really cool. Let's see the other thing. Says that the archetypal fire is at the beginning of all transformation, purification, and manifestation. Nearly every spiritual lineage honors the flame. To enliven the connection with this archetypal energy, practice the candle gazing technique called Trataka. You know that?
Yeah, but I can't remember how to pronounce that one.
Notice how lighting a single candle in any space brings magic to the room and creates a sense of reverence. When light, health, mental clarity, good digestion. When dark, excess heat and anger, complete darkness. The flame. That's the kind of archetype we'll use to look at the other cards that we pull.
Okay.
Or that you pull. How does that land for you? It lands for me in a lot of powerful ways, but I wonder how it lands for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it lands in a lot of different ways. I think that it's interesting that the overlap and like all the things that we've been talking about. I mean, the things that you noted, like purpose and also that balance, like not letting the flame go out, you know? Yeah. Very cool.
All right, pick up the other ones. Here, I'll hold that up. Let people. The flame.
Oh my goodness. So I picked 3.
You pick 3. You can shuffle them up. You can pick them from wherever you want. These are your cards.
Okay.
Whichever ones you pull are the right ones. Kind of remember the order a little bit.
Okay.
You got all of them?
Yeah. It goes 1, 2, 3.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let this meditating cat hold the flame. You like the smell of Palo Santo?
Is that what was burning in here? Because it didn't smell like that.
It wasn't. It was incense. I think it probably been some straight up Nag Champa.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
I like both.
I like
Yeah.
Palo Santo.
Mm-hmm.
Bring a little woo woo into the reading. I normally would play some music. Okay. This first one is the mind, your mind card.
Mm.
Think about the flame as it relates to your mind and this card, which you'll reveal.
I have no idea what this is.
Okay. It looks like the count 'em. It's Pentacles is a suit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Pentacles are pentagrams. They're an earth element suit. Is it 9? Should I check your
You
math?
should check my math. Oh.
Yeah, that's 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they? I have never seen these type of cards before. They're all different.
Yeah. They're different than the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. They're unique interpretations of
Okay.
the tarot. And that's a beautiful card. What do you see when you look at it?
Hmm. I have no idea.
That's cool. Earth element is Pentacles.
Okay.
It's a feminine or yin energy that relates to our planet as the source of sustenance, security, and stability. And the suit symbolizes physical resources, the body, values, practical concerns, material goods, property, forms of monetary exchange, things that sustain us.
Wait, what is that?
The suit of Pentacles. The all
What does that
Pentacles.
mean, the suit?
The
Like-
Pentacles has 1 through, there's a whole suit of Pentacles. Like in a deck of cards, there's clubs, there's hearts, there's spades. These are Pentacles as one suit.
Oh, okay.
In the minor arcana, there'll be, 1 through 9 of in that suit, and then there'll also be, the royalty cards.
I see. Okay.
Just kind of like in a regular deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's 10. 10, I'm sorry. There's 10, and then there's the kind of the royalty ones.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's the technical term for it.
Mm-hmm.
The royalty ones.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what all of the pinnacles are around, that things that sustain us in this material world.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So 9, if you look at numerology, I use this book to help me because my memory's, still developing with tarot.
Mm-hmm.
The number 9 represents humanitarianism,
Mm-hmm.
compassion, and tolerance.
Hmm.
It also signifies gaining wisdom through experience.
Hmm.
Is the numerology of 9.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It also represents the end of a cycle, tying up loose ends. It can depict fulfillment or completion, a sense of satisfaction that comes from having reached a peak. Because it's like from 1 to 10, you're like kind of at the end of that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9. Let's look at number 9 specifically. Number 9 of Pentacles. If we looked at the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it might be a little bit more. Oh, this is a good one. Well, I think we had a sense of it being good by the numerology, but it's keywords for this are abundance, material well-being, security, comfort, and success. This is the 9 of Pentacles. Gotta like count them. Some decks, including the Aquarian and the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is this deck, depict a woman with a beautiful bird standing in a vineyard. The ripe fruit symbolizes a period of plenty and accomplishment. It's time to harvest your crop. This is your mind card, by the way.
Hmm.
9 represents fulfillment, and this lovely card says you've arrived. You've achieved your goals and now feel secure. You've worked hard, used your skills and acumen, and accomplished much. You have reason to be proud. The upright 9 also represents independence. You've created the life you desire and can now enjoy your success. It says there's a little reading caption here called A Self-Made Woman.
Hmm.
It says some tarotists, including Barbara Moore, author of The Gilded Tarot Companion, see this card as representing the self-made woman, independent of a man's support and rightful proprietor of her own domain. Only 27 years before English-born Pamela Colman Smith began her series of paintings that would become the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. England's Parliament passed the Married Women's Property Act of 1882, which allowed married women to own property. Before that time, a woman surrendered her holdings to her husband upon marriage, and any property she gained during the marriage became her husband's. Hogwash.
Mm-hmm.
That self-made woman thing seems appropriate, having heard your story. But how does that land for you?
Yeah.
What comes up?
Well, it's interesting the mind part. I think it all kind of lands well, but I'm curious as to like what that means specifically to the mind. And then there was one part in the beginning where you said like there's a sense of completion.
Yeah.
That seems a little off. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Because you're not done with your LCSW?
Well, and because I have so much more to learn,
Yeah,
every
we're
day.
never done.
Every day.
We're never done.
Right. So, this is the same
Yeah,
card, but
that's the Rider-Waite-Smith
Okay.
deck card,
Mhm.
just so you can see kind of
Yeah.
what they were talking about. This woman with a beautiful bird standing in a vineyard,
Mm-hmm.
ripe fruit symbolizing a period of plenty. I think you can kind of read more into it. You can look at her facial features and look at
Yeah.
her surroundings and their clothing
Mm-hmm.
to get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
Abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're in a place of abundance mentally?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like regulating,
Mm-hmm.
found your way through you found that balance, in the new stage, you had that new stage where you're being challenged in different ways. You found a way to equalize, you
Yeah,
think?
I think so. But it's also, I don't know. I think in other ways, I feel more in abundance and more, I don't know. I feel like the mind, that's a tricky one because it's like it's an ongoing process of witnessing patterns and witnessing, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
It's possible that I got them out of order. We can look at them at the end and
uh-huh.
put them where we want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything that was said lands true, but it's hard for me to see it just specifically in regards to the mind.
I think the self-made woman thing it lands for me. Haven't
Yeah.
heard your story.
Mm-hmm.
Being redundant now. You ready for the next card, or you want to say anything else about that?
No, I'm ready.
This is the body card.
Hmm.
Body card.
Temperance.
Temperance. Okay. What do you see there on that card?
Um, I find this image very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind of bird is that? A heron? What is that?
Is that a blue heron?
And then it has drops of water coming from its neck, maybe? And then there's a fire. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is beautiful.
But I have no idea what to make of this. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you?
I have no
Well, let me
idea.
let you have that beautiful one,
Okay.
and then the Rider-Waite-Smith one,
Oh.
so you can kind of get a sense of the more traditional.
Mm-hmm. One cup filling another cup.
Yeah?
Okay, so what is it? I'm dying to know.
You're dying to know. Moderation, harmony, acceptance, resolution, cooperation, and patience.
Hmm.
This lovely card often features a winged angel, male, female, or androgynous. I guess you get to pick
Mm-hmm.
the original gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the angel stands in a stream bordered by flowers.
Mm-hmm.
The word vessel relates to the great mother god dressed of antiquity, and the human body is often referred to as the vessel of the soul.
Mm.
Thus, both the angelic figure and the cups are symbolic references to the feminine force. Temperance indicates a time of inner growth and outer harmony. You're learning to temper your ego needs with the needs of the spirit within. With patience, you can blend disparate elements of yourself and or your world into a harmonious whole. There's a little reading here. It says patience in all things. The word temperance derives from the Latin temperare, which means to moderate, blend, or mix together harmoniously.
Mm.
Interestingly, this card was named Time in early decks, which provides a key to its underlying meaning. Temperance encourages patience. Things happen at their own pace, in their own time. This is one of the great lessons of the Zen masters. There are times when nothing can be done and nothing needs to be done.
Mm.
Body.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
Hmm. I don't know. I think the interesting part about the like where sometimes nothing needs to be done. Um, it's like I can push my body by like there's some days even now when I've done like all this work to kind of slow down, there's some days where I'll get up at 7, go teach a yoga class, go um I don't know, do various things, go to the shelter, go pick up my kids, and I don't sit down or rest until 9 o'clock at night. And so I think my body is yeah, like sometimes there needs to be more balance, right?
Yeah.
Slowing down. And then also like I am in a different phase of my life after having kids. Like my body's totally different, and trying to kind of just find, I don't know, harmony. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I'm ready for the third.
Spirit.
Okay.
Spirit card. What have we here for spirit?
It's a star.
It's a star. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, the star. What do you see there? What's it look like?
It's like a beautiful rainbow-esque star.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, I remember this card. The star. From the major arcana.
Pouring water, both on the ground and then back. It looks like maybe back in the stream or the pond.
Mm-hmm.
She's naked.
Hey yo.
Hmm. Hmm.
Happiness, hope, light at the end of the tunnel, good fortune. Overwhelmingly, your pulls have been pretty positive.
Mm-hmm. Have you had some pretty negative ones?
Well, I mean,
I feel like that's
interpretations can be negative. I think
right.
it's always you can always interpret the tarot pulls in ways that go either way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the devil card's harder to figure that out.
Yeah.
The death card doesn't mean you're going to die. It could
Right.
mean the end of something and the start of something new.
Right.
So sometimes they're overwhelmingly positive,
Mm.
but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there are like the 4 in numerology or the 5 in numerology can be a time of struggle. You're in the middle of your journey. You have to
Oh.
learn and overcome the challenges that are part of that undertaking. So there are cards that have more overt like struggle, suffering, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these don't. These have all been pretty positive. This lovely card often portrays a nude female figure in or beside a pool of water. She pours water from 2 jugs or chalices. She pours the contents of one pitcher into a stream and the other onto the ground, showing the connection between the 2 feminine elements, water and earth. Stars shine in the background, sometimes in a circle or a halo-like formation around her. The naked woman represents truth and purity.
Oh, wow.
Satya and purity.
I was like, ooh, he's going to pull out Sanskrit for...
I didn't know that one. Purity.
Good job.
Do you know how to say purity in Sanskrit?
Cleanliness is like shaucha.
Shaucha.
It could be.
Close enough. The jugs contain the waters of life. We are shooting stars at the harbingers of good luck. We wish upon the star, and the star is a universal symbol of hope. Getting this card is like looking up at the bright starry sky on a clear night and seeing all the magnificence of the universe. This is a time of fulfillment, good fortune, creative inspiration, and spiritual growth, when you receive help from the unseen forces and wishes come true. Hope. This is a quote here in this section. It says, hope, which whispered from Pandora's box only after all the other plagues and sorrows had escaped, is the best and last of all things. That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, it signals an end to problems and the start of a new, happier phase of life. I think of it as the light at the end of the tunnel card. You've been preparing for this time and now you've arrived. The star shows you're in harmony with your life purpose, using your gifts beneficially. It signifies inspiration, intuition, inner wisdom, and joy. Quote from Helen Keller. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I think, like, I bet if we had pulled that card 6 months ago, it would have been different, because I think that it's only recently where I feel pretty, I don't know, pretty confident in my ability to feel hope and to feel, yeah, I don't know, amongst like all the challenges of the world, Mm-hmm.
You want to move any of those cards around? Make one the body and one the spirit, or one the...
I don't remember now. I don't remember what any of them were.
So I remember. Well, the
You tell
Pentacles,
me.
the Pentacles was mind.
Okay, and that was in brief.
Abundance.
Abundance. Okay.
The mind, and then
Okay.
then Temperance was patience.
I feel like that needs to be my mind.
Patience is your mind,
Uh-huh.
okay, and then
Yeah.
which one for your body and your spirit?
And then
Abundance and
then what is the star like in one word?
star was hope, light at the end of the tunnel.
Light at the end of the tunnel. And then this was
This is patience. Oh,
wait.
abundance.
Abundance.
Right? The end of a journey. They all kind of similar.
Yeah, they're all kind of similar. Yeah, I think like those two are fine with like wherever they're gonna be.
So
And that's just a better one for my mind.
Mind is because patience, you're looking for you're at a place where you're finding patience in your mind. And your body and your spirit can either be abundance or the light at the end of the tunnel. I like that.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. I've never had tarot done before.
Really?
Yeah. Never had a reading, never. Or wait, maybe once. Yeah.
Well, I
So,
like the idea of being the first time you pulled tarot,
mhm.
and we have it on camera. It'll be
Yeah.
here. Your tarot reading.
Forever.
Forever. Forever, ever? Ever, ever. Yeah. Anything you want to share with everybody before we wrap up?
No.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, full circle.
Full circle?
Yep. I don't even know what that means, but yeah.
This has been this has been Phil Phails with Mary Richardson-Perez. She's a founder and co-owner of Studio Satya, yoga teacher and social work intern on her way to being an LCSW. And this has been Phil Phails at Balance. Wave bye to everybody.
Bye.
Are you want a hug, fist bump, or handshake? Or none of the
Oh,
above?
a fist
You
bump.
can do elbow. Boom. That's it. We did it.
Woohoo.
Woo!